Chapter 705. Extreme Purple Slaughter Whoosh. Zhuowen suddenly flew backwards, immediately causing many of the surrounding martial artists to be surprised. When they followed Zhuowen's gaze, they all revealed looks of amazement. In the void in front of them, there was a slender and elegant figure with an arrogant expression on her face. Her beautiful eyes indifferently stared at the flying Zhuowen. "It's Grand Lily. I didn't think that Grand Lily would also make a move. This Zhuowen is really going to suffer a calamity." Everyone shook their heads. As they looked at Zhuowen, there was a trace of pity in their eyes. Grand Lily was stronger than Huangfu Wuji. A moment ago, Zhuowen had not even been Huangfu Wuji's match, much less Grand Lily. Huangfu Wuji, who was chasing from behind, also did not think that such a turn of events would occur. Originally, Zhuowen's speed was much faster than his. If Zhuowen had really fled, it would have been too difficult for him to catch up. But now, because Grand Lily had made a move, Zhuowen had no choice but to retreat. Huangfu Wuji instantly caught up to Zhuowen. "Zhuowen, it looks like you've offended many people. Even Grand Lily has made a move to stop you. Let's see where you can run now. Prepare to die for me." Huangfu Wuji meaningfully looked at Grand Lily in front of him. With a single step, he instantly arrived in the air above Zhuowen. Purple blades of air shot out from his hands. Countless blades of air danced in the air. He had actually used purple shadow slaughter once again. At this moment, Zhuowen's complexion was extremely ugly. This Grand Lily had not said a single word, but had actually attacked him. This caused Zhuowen to choke down a ball of fire. In particular, Grand Lily's arrogant attitude of looking down on him caused Zhuowen's heart to become extremely angry. This little slut, Zhuowen, had not even looked for her because of the broken engagement. Now, she had indiscriminately attacked him. Moreover, she had even put on such an arrogant expression. How could Zhuowen not be angry in his heart? Countless blades of air shot out, rumbling towards Zhuowen below. The terrifying power of these blades seemed to distort space itself. Greater limitless sword array. "Block it for me," Zhuowen shouted loudly. Instantly, countless sword lights revolved in front of Zhuowen, forming an impenetrable defense. Bang bang bang. Countless sparks flew out as the qi blades bombarded the impenetrable wall. The strong rebounding force caused Zhuowen to involuntarily retreat dozens of steps. His complexion turned even paler. Not far away, Grand Lily's beautiful eyes flashed, but she did not attack again. Instead, she stared coldly at Zhuowen. Actually, she had arrived here long ago and had also discovered Zhuowen. Originally, she hadn't cared too much about Zhuowen. But after the battle between Zhuowen and Huangfu Wuji, the more she watched, the more surprised she became. Not only had Zhuowen grasped spear intent, but he was also a grade 4 arcana master with powerful spiritual force. This was the first time Grand Lily had seen someone with such terrifying talent in both martial arts and spiritual force. Faintly, she felt that Zhuowen was a threat. Thus, when Zhuowen had tried to escape, she had resolutely attacked him. After all, the marriage contract was still in Zhuowen's hands. If she could kill Zhuowen in the heart of darkness, then the marriage contract would no longer be valid. This was also the reason why Grand Lily had attacked. However, she had only attacked to stop him. She didn't plan on personally dealing with Zhuowen. With her status and arrogant personality, it was impossible for her to join forces with Huangfu Wuji to deal with such an insignificant boy like Zhuowen. If she attacked, that would be overestimating Zhuowen. She believed that with Huangfu Wuji's strength, killing Zhuowen was more than enough. "Zhuowen, you cannot escape now. Today, you will die." As Zhuowen retreated, Huangfu Wuji rushed forwards once more. The purple blades of air in his hands danced in the air. Countless purple clouds gathered behind him, turning into a pair of terrifying purple eyes. Purple eyes. As soon as the pair of purple eyes appeared, a terrifying strength erupted. With Huangfu Wuji as the center, the entire space within a radius of dozens of meters exploded and collapsed. Zhuowen was the closest and was directly struck by this strength. Kacha! The impenetrable wall formed by the greater everlasting sword array suddenly collapsed. The terrifying strength passed through the greater everlasting sword array and smashed into Zhuowen's chest. Damn! Golden phoenix flames. Zhuowen's eyes were gloomy. The power of Huangfu Wuji's purple eyes was extremely terrifying. He had already experienced it a moment ago. Even the greater everlasting sword array's weeping blood style had been broken apart. A resounding phoenix cry rang out as the phoenix symbol on Zhuowen's back lit up, spewing out boundless golden flames that circled around Zhuowen's body, forming a golden flame armor. Bang! The power of the purple eyes also arrived. As they smashed into the golden flame armor, countless golden sparks flew out. However, the golden phoenix flames were extremely tough. Even the purple eyes were unable to completely break through the golden flame armor. Dang dang dang. However, the shockwaves from the collision of the two forces caused Zhuowen to fall into the ground like a meteor. He smashed into the ground, creating a massive crater that was dozens of feet deep. Zhuowen slowly stood up from the crater. At this time, he was in an extremely distressed state. His clothes were ragged and his skin was cracked in many places. Blood flowed out from his wounds as he gasped for breath. Your life is quite tough, it's already comparable to a cockroach. However, I want to see whether or not you can block this strike. Seeing that Zhuowen hadn't died, Huangfu Wuji's eyes flashed with a trace of surprise. However, this surprise was soon replaced by indifference. Today, he had to kill Zhuowen. Extreme purple slaughter. As Huangfu Wuji spoke, the purple energy blades in his hands began to spew out endless purple gas that gathered around the purple energy blades. Suddenly, the several dozen-foot-long purple energy blades expanded to thousands of feet long, as if they were a purple mountain peak. It was earth-shattering. Huangfu Wuji waved his hands, and two giant purple blades that were as large as mountains fell from the sky, smashing towards Zhuowen's head. What a terrifying attack! This extreme purple slaughter is one of Huangfu Wuji's ultimate moves. Now, he actually used it to deal with Zhuowen. It seems that Huangfu Wuji will kill this boy today. As the extreme purple slaughter appeared, everyone's complexions changed. Huangfu Wuji's extreme purple slaughter was extremely famous, it was one of his killing moves. There were very few martial artists of the same generation that were able to block Huangfu Wuji's killing move. Rumble rumble rumble. The two giant purple blades that were as large as mountains were like falling meteors. They swept downwards, carrying with them an indomitable aura. Zhuowen's complexion finally changed. The pressure that this extreme purple slaughter gave him was too great. It actually gave him a faint feeling that he couldn't resist. It was too strong. It seems that I can only try to fuse the 7 colored flames. Zhuowen's eyes flashed. He finally decided to use the fire fusion art and fuse together the 7 types of earth fires. However, the golden phoenix flame was a flame that he had just obtained. He wasn't sure if it would be able to fuse with the other 6 types of earth fires. I can only go all out. Seeing the falling purple blades, Zhuowen no longer hesitated. He quickly summoned the 6 types of earth fires within his body. At the same time, the mental strength within his Naiwan palace began to revolve. 6 types of earth fires again. Zhuowen's same move is completely useless against me. In front of the extreme purple slaughter, your 6 types of earth fires are just like paper, completely useless. In the air, as Huangfu Wuji looked down at Zhuowen summoning the 6 types of earth fires, the mocking smile on his face became even thicker. He still remembered that when Zhuowen had first used the 6 colored flames, it had been broken by his purple shadow slaughter. Now, this extreme purple slaughter was far more terrifying than the purple shadow slaughter. It was simply impossible for the 6 colored flames to block it. Zhuowen didn't pay any attention to the mocking Huangfu Wuji. At this moment, he was completely focused on the 6 types of earth fires in front of him, patiently controlling the 6 types of earth fires to fuse together. Whoosh! Without wasting too much time, the 6 types of earth fires were quickly fused together. 6 different colored flames burned in Zhuowen's palm, as if they were alive. What a waste of effort! Huangfu Wuji shook his head. He disapproved of Zhuowen's actions at this moment. After fusing together the 6 colored flames, Zhuowen's movements didn't stop. He squeezed his right hand, and suddenly, the golden phoenix flames on his body began to surge out. Under his control, they began to slowly fuse together with the 6 colored flames. Chi chi chi. There was a strange sound, and then the golden phoenix flames began to show signs of resistance. However, under the suppression of Zhuowen's mental strength, they finally obediently fused into the 6 colored flames. As soon as the golden phoenix flames fused into the 6 colored flames, the surrounding temperature suddenly soared to an appalling degree. Then, Zhuowen was stunned to discover that the 7 colored flames in his hand were constantly twisting and changing. A resounding phoenix cry sounded out once more. Then, Zhuowen discovered that the 7 colored flames that had just fused together had actually turned into a phoenix that spread its wings and flew high into the sky. 7 colored phoenix. Is it because of the golden phoenix flames? Looking at the changes in the 7 colored flames in his hand, Zhuowen's eyes flashed. He suddenly thought of the golden phoenix flames. Perhaps only the golden phoenix flames could cause the 7 colored flames to undergo such a change. It seems that the golden phoenix flames are indeed extraordinary. I wonder how powerful this 7 colored phoenix is. As he spoke, Zhuowen threw his right hand upwards. The 7 colored phoenix in his hand suddenly soared into the sky. Its originally palm-sized body began to expand at a speed visible to the naked eye. In an instant, it had turned into a 7 colored phoenix that was thousands of feet in size. Its huge wings spread out, wrapped in a monstrous sea of fire, and the 7 colored phoenix instantly rushed towards the 2 giant purple blades in the air. Bang! A terrifying explosion sounded out. Purple light and 7 colored flames spread out all over the sky. For a moment, the entire horizon turned into a sea of fire. It looked exceptionally terrifying. The countless surrounding martial artists couldn't help but retreat again and again. They didn't think that Zhuowen would be able to use such a terrifying move. Even Grant Lily, who was standing not too far away, had a trace of surprise in her originally calm eyes. The power of this 7 colored phoenix had also surpassed her expectations. Dang dang dang. Huangfu Wuji retreated again and again, a look of fear and alarm appearing on his face. He didn't think that Zhuowen would be able to use such a powerful move like the 7 colored phoenix. Zhuowen. Today, you will die without a doubt. Extreme Purple Slaughter, 3rd Blade, come forth. Huangfu Wuji gave a loud shout. Another purple energy blade condensed in his hand. This purple energy blade was much deeper in color than the other 2, and its aura was also much more terrifying. Bang! Huangfu Wuji waved his right hand and the purple energy blade expanded once more, growing to a terrifying size of nearly 10,000 feet. Chapter 706. 7 Colored Phoenix Bang. The nearly 10,000-foot-long purple blade slashed down from the void, instantly landing on the 7 colored phoenix's body and forcing it back several hundred steps. Break for me. Huangfu Wuji stepped into the air, standing on top of the purple blade. He pressed down with his right hand and the 3 purple blades split into 3 different directions, erupting with endless purple energy that bombarded the 7 colored phoenix. The 7 colored phoenix was not to be outdone. It counterattacked again and again. Unfortunately, the 3 purple blades were too powerful. Even though the 7 colored phoenix was peerlessly powerful, it was still suppressed. Below, Zhuowen looked at the suppressed 7 colored phoenix, a dignified look in his eyes. Huangfu Wuji was too strong, the disparity between them was too great. Zhuowen was simply not his match. I have to leave this place. Zhuowen knew that if he continued to tangle with Huangfu Wuji, he would undoubtedly be defeated. At that time, he might not even be able to keep his life. Taking advantage of the fact that everyone's attention was drawn to the battle in the sky, Zhuowen quietly unfurled his 3 pairs of thunder wings. With a step, he turned into a bolt of thunder and fled in another direction. Zhuowen, you coward, you're actually running away again. At this moment, Huangfu Wuji was commanding the purple blades to deal with the 7-colored phoenix. As he looked towards where Zhuowen was, he suddenly discovered that at some unknown time, Zhuowen had actually sneaked away. Huangfu Wuji couldn't help but have an ugly expression. Unfortunately, with the 7-colored phoenix in front of him, Huangfu Wuji simply couldn't escape. Only after the 7-colored phoenix was destroyed would Huangfu Wuji be able to chase after Zhuowen. Zhuowen simply didn't pay any attention to the roaring Huangfu Wuji behind him. With a single step, he flew away at an even faster speed. This action immediately caused Huangfu Wuji to be enraged, but there was nothing he could do. Whoosh! A massive whip shadow suddenly swept out from the side, smashing towards Zhuowen's waist. Its power was extremely terrifying. Even Zhuowen's complexion couldn't help but change. Grand Lily! You bitch, when did I ever provoke you? You actually tried to stop me again and again. Zhuowen roared angrily, and his 3 pairs of lightning wings suddenly shrank. At the critical moment, he dodged the huge whip shadow that came from the side. A beautiful figure slowly swept over. Grand Lily's white clothes fluttered, her expression was cold as she stared at Zhuowen and said indifferently, "What did you say about me just now? Do you dare to say it again? You bitch! Attacking me for no reason, is there something wrong with your brain?" At this moment, Zhuowen had a belly full of anger. Originally, he could have escaped from Huangfu Wuji's pursuit, but that bitch Grand Lily had actually attacked him in every possible way, forcing him to stay here and face Huangfu Wuji. Grand Lily's pretty face darkened and a trace of anger appeared in her beautiful eyes. This Zhuowen in front of her was really too rude. He actually dared to say such things to her. She was the proud daughter of heaven of the Grand Family, and also a monstrous genius in the top 10 rankings of the Azure Emperor decree. Wherever she went, she would receive awe and admiration. But this piece of trash that was engaged to her actually dared to say such things to her. Hand over the marriage contract and destroy your own cultivation. Then, I, Grand Lily, will let you go. Remember, you only have one chance. If you miss it, you will die without a burial ground. Grand Lily quietly stood in front of Zhuowen, looking down at him from above. Her voice was cold, and her pretty face was filled with a natural expression. Who do you think you are? Do you really think that I want you as my wife? Let me tell you, I've even written the divorce papers. You can take it. Our engagement will naturally be completely broken. Zhuowen coldly snorted and took out the divorce papers that he had already written, his eyes coldly staring at Grand Lily. You reckless fool, do you think you have the qualifications to divorce me? You don't even have the qualifications to carry my shoes, and you still want to divorce me? Grand Lily was finally enraged. With a wave of her right hand, the belt around her waist immediately turned into a tough whip. Countless whip shadows swept out, heading straight for Zhuowen. Infinite Sword Array. Great Sun Nirvana, Extinction. Seeing the countless whip shadows in front of him, Zhuowen's complexion changed. This Grand Lily was even stronger than Zhuowen. Zhuowen could not afford to be careless. He simultaneously used the Infinite Sword Array and Great Sun Nirvana. Countless sword lights shot out, circling around Zhuowen's body. At the same time, countless golden lights shot out, turning into a pillar of light that soared into the sky. A crack appeared in the void, and a 10,000-meter-tall golden giant stepped out on terrifying golden flames. Ever since Zhuowen's Great Sun Nirvana had broken through to the 2nd level, the summoned golden giant had become even more terrifying, and its form had also changed. The 1st level's golden giant had 1 head and 2 arms. The second level's golden giant had 2 heads and 4 arms. Its strength was far greater than the first level's golden giant. As the 2-headed, 4-armed giant descended, it waved its arms towards the countless whip shadows in front of it. Countless golden lights spread out, blocking Grand Lily's whip shadows. Everyone listen up. This Grand Lily is Zhuowen's fiancé. The Grand Family Patriarch, Grand Lily Haohai, once had a marriage agreement with our Zhuo family. After blocking the whip images, Zhuowen took a step in the air and hurriedly retreated, and then he suddenly shouted out loudly. Under the amplification of his origin energy, his voice was like surging thunder that spread out towards the surroundings. What? That Grand Lily is Zhuowen's fiancé? Isn't this too ridiculous? This Zhuowen is lying. The Grand Family is one of the 5 great families of the imperial city. As for the so-called Zhuo family, I have never heard of it. It must be a small family. How can these 2 families be connected by marriage? Zhuowen's shout immediately stunned many of the surrounding warriors. Grand Lily was Zhuowen's fiancé. This news was too shocking, but most of them did not believe it. After all, there was no proof. Zhuowen! Shut up, shut up! Grand Lily's face changed. What she did not expect was that Zhuowen actually dared to say such news in public. Zhuowen could not be bothered with Grand Lily. Since Grand Lily did not abide by the agreement and wanted to kill him in the heart of darkness, then she could not blame Zhuowen for being unjust. You don't believe it? This is the marriage agreement signed back then. It is written in black and white. Take a look and you will know whether what I said is true or not. Zhuowen sneered and took out a scroll from his chest. He opened it abruptly, and the words on the scroll appeared in front of everyone's eyes. Swoosh! 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 Numerous gazes gathered on the marriage agreement. What was written inside was indeed the marriage alliance between Zhuowen and Grand Lily. For a moment, the gazes of the surrounding warriors became extremely strange. They also faintly understood why Grand Lily targeted Zhuowen. It was probably all because of this marriage agreement. Grand Family was a colossal force, while Zhuo family was insignificant. If the 2 families were really connected by marriage, Grand Family would definitely be treated as a laughing stock, and Grand Lily would also be treated as a joke by others. Zhuowen! You shut up for me. I must kill you today. Feeling the mocking gazes of the surrounding warriors, Grand Lily's face turned green and white. She gave a delicate cry and waved the soft whip in her hand again. Countless essence power gathered and transformed into a huge whip shadow in front of her. Rumble! The whip shadow lashed on the golden giant again. Immediately, the golden giant actually collapsed into countless golden lights under this whip and turned into nothingness. The golden giant collapsed and the whip shadow changed again. It was like a venomous snake that was on the hunt. It swept towards Zhuowen at an extremely fast speed. Zhuowen squinted his eyes and the mental strength in his Naiwen palace swept out. There were hundreds of terrifying mental strength and under Zhuowen's command, they controlled the infinite sword formation in front of him. Infinite sword formation, blood-weeping form. Zhuowen used the blood-weeping form again and a drop of blood fell from the void. The infinite sword formation was dyed blood-red and a mournful aura filled the air. Rumble! The whip shadows struck the greater infinite sword formation, and the sound of metal clashing rang out. Following that, the greater infinite sword formation was broken, and countless sword beams shot towards Zhuowen. Zhuowen! You're dead meat. Granny Lily was filled with murderous intent as she lashed out with her whip once again. The gigantic whip shadow in the void lashed out towards Zhuowen's body. The crushing power almost caused the surrounding space to distort. Puchi! The whip shadow smashed into Zhuowen's chest. Zhuowen spat out a mouthful of blood and was sent flying backwards. It was only several hundred meters away that he was barely able to stop himself. At that moment, Zhuowen's complexion was pale, and blood was flowing out from the corner of his mouth. His chest, which was shining with a golden light, was faintly caved in. His sternum actually showed signs of cracking under the whip's attack. The Grand Lily was too strong, it was much stronger than Huangfu Wuji. Just a casual whip shadow was enough to put Zhuo Wen into such a difficult situation. Because he had cultivated the great sun nirvana, the strength of Zhuo Wen's mortal body had almost surpassed the strength of an earth-step spirit treasure. But under that whip, his sternum had actually felt as if it couldn't withstand it. Zhuo Wen is dead meat. Grand Lily's ranking is higher than Huangfu Wuji's, and she is also stronger than Huangfu Wuji. This Zhuo Wen won't be able to escape. The surrounding martial artists all shook their heads and sighed. This Zhuo Wen was actually very strong. Unfortunately, this boy had encountered Grand Lily and Huangfu Wuji, these two monstrous geniuses. His death this time could be considered a great injustice. On the other side of the battlefield, Huangfu Wuji was entangled with the Rainbow Phoenix. He also noticed that Zhuo Wen was being entangled by Grand Lily, and a mocking expression appeared on his face. He wasn't in a hurry to deal with the Rainbow Phoenix. No wonder Grand Lily wants to deal with this Zhuo Wen. It turns out that she has a marriage contract with this little bastard Zhuo Wen. How interesting. As he dealt with the Rainbow Phoenix, Huangfu Wuji was also silently watching the battle between Grand Lily and Zhuo Wen. Grand Lily instantly arrived above Zhuo Wen, looking down at Zhuo Wen as she coldly said, "I'll give you one more chance. Hand over the marriage contract and I'll leave your corpse intact." Bitch. What this father wants to give you is not a marriage contract, but a divorce contract. Do you understand divorce contracts? Sooner or later, this father will divorce a bitch like you. Zhuo Wen wiped the blood from the corners of his mouth, his words shocking everyone to death. As these words came out, all of the surrounding martial artists gave him a big thumbs up. This Zhuo Wen really had a personality. Even at death's door, he didn't beg for mercy, but instead cursed out loud. Stubborn fool. Then go die. After you die, the marriage contract on your body will be mine. Chapter 707. Fleeing in panic, looking at the terrifying whip shadow above his head, Zhuo Wen's expression changed. Grand Lily did not show any mercy this time. It was obvious that she wanted to kill him. Looks like I can only use the complete version of the boundless sword formation. Zhuo Wen's eyes flickered as he flicked his right finger. Rays of sword light shot out. It was actually a grade 4 origin formation, the boundless sword aura. The limitless sword astral was one of the smaller sword formations of the greater limitless sword formation. Back then, Zhuo Wen had already fixed the flaws of the greater limitless sword formation, allowing it to recover the power of a grade 5 origin formation. Grade 5 origin formations were too rare. If others knew that he had the complete boundless sword formation, there would probably be many arcanists coveting the origin formation in his hands. Now that Grand Lily was giving him too much pressure, Zhuo Wen had no choice but to use the complete version of the boundless sword formation. Otherwise, he might really die in Grand Lily's hands. Whoosh! The limitless sword astral transformed into a stream of light and instantly drilled into one of the incomplete parts of the greater limitless sword formation. Instantly, the originally somewhat dim greater limitless sword formation glowed and emitted an extremely dazzling light. Boundless sword formation's blood-weeping style. The boundless sword formation buzzed together. After recovering the grade 5 origin formation, the power of the boundless sword formation increased by thousands of times. Above the void, there were actually countless cracks. Countless drops of blood sprayed out from the countless cracks. In the pitter-patter, there was actually a dense rain of blood in this area. The smell of blood permeated the air. The boundless sword formation turned into countless rays of blood. It was like the surrounding rain of blood, forming a blood-colored hurricane. Boom! The huge whip shadow arrived in an instant and blasted onto the blood-colored hurricane. Following that, the whip shadow that was like a clay ox entering the sea stagnated. He blocked it. The power of Zhuowen's boundless sword formation has increased. When the whip shadow was blocked, Grand Lily's beautiful eyes narrowed and a trace of surprise appeared on her charming face. However, it won't be that easy to stop me with just this. Great Lily's beautiful eyes flickered slightly. She waved her jade-like hand and the soft whip in her hand scattered out. Immediately, densely packed whip shadows appeared all over the sky. They were just like numerous agile pythons that continuously swam around. Snake summoning whip. With a delicate shout, the countless whip shadows transformed into countless pythons. With the sound of the air being torn apart, the pythons formed by the whip shadows swept towards the greater limitless sword formation below. Rumble. Countless pythons bombarded. Even the greater limitless sword formation actually found it somewhat strenuous to withstand, and actually retreated repeatedly. Zhuowen. Prepare to die. Stepping on countless python phantoms, Grand Lily was like a seductive snake woman. She suddenly rushed towards Zhuowen, who was inside the greater limitless sword formation. She waved the soft whip in her hand again and swept it towards Zhuowen's chest. Greater limitless sword formation. Keep it. Since the great limitless sword formation was unable to stop the Grand Lily, Zhuowen immediately kept it into his spirit ring and patted the demon-suppressing green coffin on his back. Bang! The demon-suppressing green coffin swept out and blocked in front of Zhuowen. At the same time, Zhuowen even opened the demon-suppressing green coffin by 1/3, and a terrifying pressure flowed out. Boom! The soft whip swept over and struck the surface of the demon-suppressing green coffin. With a clanging sound, countless sparks flew. Grand Lily squinted her eyes and realized that her soft whip was actually unable to leave a single mark on the surface of the demon-suppressing green coffin. What a tough coffin! Grand Lily's charming face revealed an astonished expression. Her soft whip was an earth-rank extreme spiritual treasure with peerless power. When it struck the surface of this strange green coffin, it was actually unable to leave a single mark. There was also the pressure that was released from the demon-suppressing green coffin, causing Grand Lily's delicate body to sink slightly. The origin energy in her body surged out and instantly neutralized the pressure. You have quite a lot of trump cards. Unfortunately, even so, you can't escape death. Grand Lily coldly snorted and waved her soft whip again, continuously striking the green coffin. Clanging sounds continuously rang out. As for Zhuowen, he hid behind the green coffin and retreated continuously. Blood flowed out of his mouth and his face was gloomy to the extreme. Grand Lily was much stronger than him, and right now, he did not have the slightest bit of strength to fight back. If the demon-suppressing green coffin opens a little more, the pressure that flows out should be able to temporarily suppress this bitch. His eyes flickered as Zhuowen stared at the demon-suppressing green coffin. Right now, he had used all his trump cards, but he was still not a match for Grand Lily. If he still did not leave this place, he would only be defeated. Zhuowen. Saying that you are a coward is still too easy for you. You are so spineless, yet you still want to marry into our grand family. You are truly delusional. Grand Lily sneered again and again, the soft whip in her hand continuously lashed out. Although the devil-suppressing green coffin was extremely hard, the aftershock of every strike would pass through the devil-suppressing green coffin and into Zhuowen's body. With Zhuowen's cultivation, it was impossible for him to withstand too many attacks, and he would probably die from heavy injuries. She, Grand Lily, wanted to use this kind of stupid method to slowly torture Zhuowen to death. I can't just sit here and wait for death. Otherwise, I'll definitely die. Another whip shadow struck out, and the demon-suppressing green coffin flew out with Zhuowen once again, while Zhuowen suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood. At this moment, he seemed to be able to feel the burning pain in his internal organs, and he knew that if this continued, he would definitely not be able to hold on, and had to find an opportunity to escape. Demon-suppressing green coffin. Open for me. In the process of retreating, Zhuowen shouted loudly, and once again slapped the lid of the demon-suppressing green coffin. The lid that was originally 1/3 open, under Zhuowen's attack, opened a little more, and actually opened half of it. Rumble. An even more terrifying pressure suddenly surged out from the green coffin, and a strange bloody aura leaked out from the gap of the green coffin. Through this gap, Zhuowen could even see a pair of strange, soul-stirring, blood-red eyes from within the gloomy coffin. Zhuowen was all too familiar with this pair of bloody eyes, as they belonged to the blood demon. Brat! Let me out, and I'll help you kill all the people around you. How about that? A hoarse voice rang out in Zhuowen's heart. This was the voice of the blood demon. This blood demon's vitality was really tenacious, and after being worn by Zhuowen and absorbing energy for almost a year, it was still alive and kicking. No need. I just need to borrow your pressure to escape from this bitch's pursuit. Zhuowen did not look at the pair of bloody eyes in the coffin. He was very clear that the primordial blood demon was much stronger than him, and if he directly looked at it, he might be bewitched. Brat! Let me out, and I can bestow you with supreme power to help you break through to the Emperor realm. How about that? The blood demon did not give up, and its hoarse and seductive voice still rang out in Zhuowen's heart, bewitching Zhuowen's heart. Scram! Zhuowen growled. He slapped the green coffin and slammed it into the ground. Instantly, a terrifying pressure spread out in an area of dozens of miles. The sudden spreading of the terrifying pressure caused Graham Lily, who was chasing after Su Mo, to tremble and fall to the ground, unable to walk in the air. The pressure was much stronger than before, and even she could not walk in the air. What a terrifying pressure! What's going on with that green coffin on Zhuowen, that little bastard? How can it release such a terrifying pressure? Graham Lily's beautiful eyes were filled with shock. At that moment, Zhuowen's condition was extremely bad. Due to Graham Lily's attack earlier, he had suffered severe internal injuries. Now that he had forcefully opened half of the demon-suppressing green coffin, the backlash had exceeded the range that he could endure. Now, every moment was torture to him, and his entire body was in pain as if thousands of ants were gnawing on him. Let's go. Landing beside the demon-suppressing green coffin, Zhuowen carried it on his back and fled into the depths of the dense forest. Damn you, Zhuowen! Let's see where you can run to. Seeing that Zhuowen was about to escape, Graham Lily clenched her teeth, lifted her foot, and chased after Zhuowen. Due to the existence of the demon-suppressing green coffin's pressure, Graham Lily could not fly in the air to chase after Su Mo. However, she was extremely powerful, and she relied on the profound origin power in her body to withstand the pressure, and she was able to move quickly on the ground. Luckily, Zhuowen was severely injured and his speed was not fast. Thus, Graham Lily was able to keep up with Zhuowen, and her speed was even slightly faster than Zhuowen's. Soon, the chasing and fleeing figures disappeared from everyone's sight. Damn! They actually ran away. Huangfu Wuji was still entangled with the rainbow phoenix. Now that he saw Graham Lily and Zhuowen disappear from his field of vision, he couldn't help but reveal an anxious expression. With a loud shout, the three mountain-like purple blades in the air slammed down on the seven-colored phoenix. The seven-colored phoenix let out a sorrowful cry as it was cut into 3 pieces by the 3 purple blades, turning into countless seven-colored sparks that rained down. Whoosh! As the rainbow phoenix was destroyed, Huangfu Wuji took a step forward, rushing in the direction that Zhuowen and Graham Lily had gone. For a time, the only people left in the open space were the gathered martial artists. As soon as Zhuowen, Graham Lily, and Huangfu Wuji left, the group of martial artists tacitly separated, vigilantly staring at each other. This was the peach blossom origin diagram. As long as they were not from the same county, they were all enemies. They would not leave their backs to their enemies. Whoosh! As these martial artists were vigilant against each other, Huangfu Wuji returned, his face gloomy to the extreme. Although Zhuowen and Graham Lily were not fast, they were not slow either. By the time he broke through the rainbow phoenix and chased after them, he had already lost track of them. Humph! Even if I don't chase after them, that Zhuowen is dead for sure. Huangfu Wuji's eyes flashed. He knew that with Graham Lily chasing after him, Zhuowen would definitely die. This was because Graham Lily was stronger than him, and by a large margin. Although this was the case, Huangfu Wuji was still very unhappy. In his opinion, he should have had an overwhelming advantage against Zhuowen. But even after using his ultimate move, the extreme purple annihilation, he still wasn't able to kill Zhuowen. To him, this was a great humiliation. Thinking of this, Huangfu Wuji's eyes filled with anger. As he looked at the martial artists in front of him, he had to vent his anger. It just so happens that I'm missing some seals. Then I'll take some from you. Chapter 708. Falling off a cliff. Whoosh. Whoosh. Two whistling sounds rang out as two figures, one fleeing and one chasing, flashed through the dense forest, stirring up the dried leaves on the ground. At this moment, Zhuowen's face was as gloomy as water. He turned his gaze to the back and saw the approaching Glen Lily. His expression grew uglier and uglier. This Glen Lily was like a sticky candy, sticking to him without letting go. How hateful. Zhuowen. Are you still trying to escape? Glen Lily's cold voice rang out from behind. With a wave of her jade-like hand, the soft whip immediately swept towards Zhuowen's back like a snake. Damn bitch, as long as I, Zhuowen, am alive, I'll definitely repay you 10-fold or 100-fold in the future. Sensing the whip coming from behind, Zhuowen cursed in a low voice. With a stomp of his foot, he forcefully twisted his body and placed the green coffin in front of him. Rumble. The soft whip struck the green coffin and a thunderous sound rang out. A terrifying shockwave spread out and fiercely slammed into Zhuowen's chest. Pfft. Zhuowen spat out another mouthful of blood. His eyes were filled with shock and anger. This Glen Lily was too hateful. She actually dared to fight with him today. The two of them pursued each other for the time for an entire incense stick to burn before Zhuowen's expression suddenly turned grim. Because a cliff had suddenly appeared ahead of them. Stomp. With a stomp of his foot, Zhuowen stopped at the edge of the cliff. He turned around and coldly stared at the Glen Lily behind him, who had also slowed down. Zhuowen. Looks like even the heavens want you dead. A few dozen meters away, the corners of Glen Lily's mouth curled into a mocking smile. She slowly walked towards Zhuowen with a victorious expression on her face. She had never imagined that a cliff would appear in front of her. This time, Zhuowen would not be able to escape even if he had wings. One had to know that the cliffs of the Heart of Darkness were extremely strange. The gravity here was much more terrifying than other places. Even Ultimate Emperor Realm cultivators could not walk on the cliffs of the Heart of Darkness. The cliffs here were tens of thousands of meters high. Ultimate Emperor Realm cultivators could not walk on air. If they fell down this cliff, they would definitely die without a burial place. Zhuowen. Hand over the spirit ring obediently and destroy your own cultivation. I, the Grand Lily, promise to spare your life. Granny Lily walked towards Zhuowen step by step, her voice cold and arrogant. Her beautiful eyes stared at Zhuowen with a trace of passion. She knew that Zhuowen had a lot of good things on him, so she didn't want to let go of Zhuowen's spirit ring. Humph. Do you really think you have me? Zhuowen sneered, and the demon-suppressing green coffin suddenly stopped on the ground. Countless blood chi rushed out from the cracks, and a pair of blood eyes stared at the Grand Lily in front of him through the cracks. Being caught off guard, Glen Lily seemed to be possessed as he stared deeply at the pair of blood-red eyes in the green coffin. He was completely stunned on the spot. Good chance. Zhuowen's eyes flickered, and he rushed towards Glen Lily with the bone spear in his hand, thrusting it towards Glen Lily's snow-white neck. When the bone spear tip was about to reach Glen Lily's neck, Glen Lily, who was originally in a daze, suddenly woke up. Feeling the bone spear getting closer and closer, Glen Lily shouted and twisted her waist to the side. Pust. The bone spear tip instantly swept past Glen Lily's hair, and a strand of black hair fell down like catkins in the wind. At the same time, a trace of blood appeared on the left side of Glen Lily's face, and traces of blood flowed down. What a fast reaction. After missing his attack, Zhuowen stomped his foot and hurriedly retreated. Glen Lily was much stronger than him, and since his attack didn't hit, Zhuowen naturally didn't want to tangle with Glen Lily. Zhuowen. You deserve to die, you actually dared to sneak attack me. Gently wiping the left side of her face, Glen Lily cried out in shock. This Zhuowen actually dared to cut her face. Although it was only a trace of blood, to a girl who loved beauty, this was more serious than killing her. Whoosh! The moment Zhuowen retreated, Glen Lily also moved. She swung her jade-like hand again, and the soft whip instantly coiled around Zhuowen's right leg like a spirit snake. Bang! With his right leg coiled, Zhuowen directly smashed onto the ground. His chest couldn't help but hold a breath of air, and he violently vomited blood. Zhuowen! I want you dead. Glen Lily almost went crazy. Her face being cut had already touched her reverse scale. She swung her jade-like hand again, and Zhuowen was directly thrown out, flying towards the cliff behind him. At this moment, Zhuowen didn't have any extra strength left. His injuries were too serious, and he couldn't even move a finger. He could only allow his body to fly towards the cliff behind him. Glen Lily didn't seem to be satisfied. She swung her soft whip again, and ruthlessly smashed it on Zhuowen's chest. Zhuowen felt as if his internal organs were being burned by fire. He violently vomited a mouthful of blood, and his entire body was like a meteorite, rapidly falling towards the bottom of the cliff. Whoosh! At the edge of the cliff, the originally opened green coffin suddenly closed. After that, the demon-suppressing green coffin actually fell down the cliff by itself, and flew towards Zhuowen. Standing at the edge of the cliff, Glen Lily covered her left cheek, and her beautiful face was as cold as frost. To her, Zhuowen's death was nothing to be regretted. Trash will always be trash. Her right hand wiped her left cheek, and the blood was immediately wiped away. Glen Lily no longer paid attention to the bottom of the cliff, and with a step, she flew towards the dense forest behind her. Since Zhuowen was already dead, she naturally wouldn't stay here for long. Whoosh! At the bottom of the endless cliff, Zhuowen was like a powerless butterfly, continuously falling downwards. At this moment, Zhuowen was seriously injured, and his entire body was powerless. He probably didn't even have the strength to move. Looking at the cliff above him that was getting further and further away, Zhuowen slowly opened his eyes, and a calm expression appeared on his face. He didn't know why, but he seemed so calm in the face of death. Slightly tilting his head, Zhuowen's gaze focused on the mark on his right palm. He knew that his only chance of survival was to abandon the mark on his hand. At that time, the Azure Emperor would naturally teleport him out of the Peach Blossom origin diagram. However, he wasn't willing to give up. He had once promised Mu Qinxue that he would enter the Divine Academy to find her. The Battle of the 9 Counties was his only chance. If he lost this opportunity, it would be impossible for him to enter a colossus like the Divine Academy in the future. I'm not willing to give up. His gaze flickered. Zhuowen was extremely unwilling to give up just like that. His right hand clenched into a fist. At this moment, Zhuowen hesitated. Whoosh! Just as Zhuowen was about to fall to the bottom of the cliff, a green light swept over from above and stopped below him. Zhuowen only felt a chill on his back, and his falling speed actually slowed down a lot until it stopped. Demon-suppressing green coffin. This green light was the demon-suppressing green coffin that had flown down from the cliff on its own. However, what made Zhuowen puzzled was that he was heavily injured and didn't have the strength to control the demon-suppressing green coffin. Why did the demon-suppressing green coffin automatically fly over to protect its master? Blood demon. His eyes flashing, Zhuowen immediately thought of the blood demon inside the demon-suppressing green coffin. Other than him being able to control the demon-suppressing green coffin, the blood demon sealed inside also had a portion of control. Kid! You're quite smart. A hoarse voice sounded in Zhuowen's mind. It was the voice of the blood demon. Narrowing his eyes, Zhuowen said with some doubt, "You actually saved me? What a rare sight. You must know that back then at the blood demon's inheritance ground, I was the one who brought the demon-suppressing green coffin to Big Brother Hantian to suppress you. You're actually so kind. Humph. Do you think this demon is willing to save you? That bastard Lu Hantian tied this demon's life to the demon-suppressing green coffin, and you are now the master of the demon-suppressing green coffin. If you die, then the demon-suppressing green coffin will be greatly injured, and at that time, this demon will also suffer." The blood demon's voice sounded again, his tone extremely unfriendly. It was obvious that he was extremely resentful towards Lu Hantian. Hearing this, Zhuowen nodded, finally understanding why the blood demon wanted to save him. Big Brother Hantian is too kind. With a low sigh, Zhuowen's gratitude towards Lu Hantian grew even stronger. He knew that Lu Hantian had purposely tied the blood demon's life to the demon-suppressing green coffin. This way, not only would the blood demon not dare to devour him, he would also have no choice but to save his life when he was in danger. "Kid! Let's make a deal. How about it?" Suddenly, the blood demon's voice sounded in Zhuowen's mind. His voice was somewhat bewitching. "Deal? You want me to let you out?" Raising his eyebrows, Zhuowen said with interest. "Don't worry. This demon knows that you won't agree to this request, so I won't make it." The blood demon said indifferently. "Oh. Then what's your request?" Zhuowen asked curiously. "Humph. You also know that this demon is an ancient sacred level creature, and this demon's mind has endless ancient secret techniques. These secret techniques are extremely precious to you. If you can agree to my request, this demon can help you cultivate. How about it?" The blood demon said proudly. "Help me cultivate?" "Yes. For you humans, breaking through to the Four Venerables realm and the Emperor Power realm might be very difficult. But for this demon, it's actually not difficult. This demon can help you break through quickly." The blood demon's face was filled with pride. It was an ancient sacred level creature that had lived since ancient times. Whether it was knowledge or experience, it was much deeper than Zhuowen's. "Then what's your request?" After pondering for a moment, Zhuowen did not directly agree. The blood demon's request was indeed very tempting. With the help of such a terrifying creature, Zhuowen's cultivation would definitely be able to advance by leaps and bounds. Moreover, Zhuowen was currently heavily injured and powerless. If he wanted to quickly recover, he would have to rely on the blood demon's power. This demon's request is very simple. When your strength reaches the Emperor Power realm, release this demon's seal. At that time, your strength should not be afraid of this demon. Even if this demon comes out, it won't be a big threat to you. What do you think?" The blood demon's voice sounded again, and there was a hint of hope in its tone. Although the blood demon was arrogant, it did not want to be sealed in the demon-suppressing green coffin forever, so it could only compromise with Zhuowen. "After I reach the Emperor Power realm, I'll release your seal." Chapter 709. Blood-sucking technique. This deal is beneficial to you. The blood demon eagerly said. After pondering for a moment, Zhuowen nodded. The deal that the blood demon proposed was indeed beneficial to him. He nodded and said, "I accept this deal. Now that I am seriously injured, you must help me heal." Zhuowen knew that if the blood demon was sincere in making a deal with him, he would not refuse his proposal. Sure enough, as soon as Zhuowen mentioned healing, the blood demon earnestly nodded and said, "Don't worry. We are now in a cooperative relationship. I will not let you die so easily." The demon-suppressing green coffin has limited my strength, so I cannot control the green coffin to bring you back to the cliff. I can only go to the bottom of the cliff first. After the blood devil finished speaking, he slowly descended. His speed became extremely slow. After about an hour, Zhuowen finally landed safely at the bottom of the cliff. The bottom of the cliff was an abandoned canyon. In the center of the canyon, there was an underground river. The river water was inky black and looked extremely strange. Zhuowen's eyes narrowed as he stared at the river in front of him. He could feel that this river was not simple, it actually gave him a faint sense of danger. Whoosh! There was the sound of water splashing as a several dozen-foot-long python rushed out from the river. It directly threw itself at Zhuowen, its sharp fangs gleaming with a cold light. Zhuowen's complexion changed. He was seriously injured and his entire body was without strength. Although this python was not strong, with Zhuowen's current condition, he was not its match. Pang! The demon-suppressing green coffin suddenly moved in front of Zhuowen. The python crashed into the green coffin, its head shattering and blood splashing out. It died a miserable death beneath the green coffin. Boy! The injuries on your body are too heavy. If you want to recover normally, you will need at least half a year. That is far too long. The blood demon's voice once again sounded in Zhuowen's mind. Hearing this, Zhuowen bitterly smiled. He had fought with Huangfu Wuji and Grand Lily, these two monstrous geniuses. In particular, Grand Lily had wanted to kill him from the very beginning. If it weren't for his great luck, then he might have really been killed by Grand Lily. It was obvious how serious Zhuowen's injuries were at this moment. If he hadn't cultivated the Nirvana Vairocana, and if the strength of his body didn't surpass ordinary earthly rank spirit treasures, he probably wouldn't have been able to hold on until now. Could it be that you have a way to heal my injuries in a short period of time? Zhuowen suddenly asked. He knew that the blood demon wouldn't casually say such things. Since the blood demon had brought it up, there might really be a way for him to quickly recover. This demon has a secret technique in my sea of consciousness. This secret technique can absorb the blood and qi of living creatures to replenish myself, allowing a cultivator's injuries to quickly recover through the use of blood and qi. If you cultivate this secret technique, you should be able to fully recover your strength within a month, Blood Devil suddenly said. Absorb the blood and qi of living creatures to restore my injuries? Zhuowen's face revealed a trace of surprise. This sort of secret technique that forcefully seized blood and qi could be said to be extremely evil. Moreover, Zhuowen didn't believe that such a secret technique wouldn't have any side effects. As if seeing the hesitation on Zhuowen's face, the blood demon's voice sounded out once more. Are you worried about the side effects of this secret technique? This demon can completely help you resolve the side effects of this secret technique. Oh. You're so kind. Zhuowen asked, a bit suspicious. The blood demon lightly smiled and said, you can rest assured. This demon also has his own selfish motives. The side effects of this secret technique are greatly beneficial to this demon. Cultivating this secret technique is a win-win situation for both of us. As the blood demon spoke, the doubts in Zhuowen's heart were dispelled. After all, he and the blood demon had already reached an agreement, so there was no need for the blood demon to trick him. Then pass on this secret technique to me. Zhuowen's eyes flickered as he said indifferently. Extend your hand to the green coffin. This demon can pass on the secret technique to you through the demon-suppressing green coffin, the blood demon said indifferently. Zhuowen shrugged. His right hand moved at the speed of a turtle as he extended it towards the green coffin in front of him. At this moment, he was heavily injured and almost powerless. Just the simple act of extending his hand was extremely difficult for him. After a full 15 minutes, Zhuowen barely managed to place his finger on the demon-suppressing green coffin. However, he was already sweating profusely. His forehead was covered with soybean-sized beads of sweat. Looks like your injuries are really serious. Even extending your hand is so difficult. The blood demon's voice sounded again, but this time, it sounded rather surprised. "Stop talking nonsense. Hurry up and pass on the secret technique to me," Zhuowen said coldly as he shook his head. The blood demon did not reply. However, Zhuowen could feel a burning sensation from his right hand that was placed on the green coffin. Following that, Zhuowen discovered that detailed information appeared in the depths of his forehead. This should be the secret technique that the blood demon was talking about. A hint of joy flashed in his eyes. Zhuowen closed his eyes and silently comprehended this secret technique. After 2 hours of comprehension, Zhuowen slowly opened his eyes. The corners of his mouth curled up. He finally knew the use of this secret technique. The secret technique that the blood demon passed on was called the Great Blood-Sucking Technique. It was a rather cruel auxiliary secret technique. Its main function was to absorb the blood and qi of living creatures to restore one's profound qi. Moreover, once the Great Blood-Sucking Technique was used, it would completely suck the blood and qi of living creatures dry, turning them into mummies. It could be said to be extremely cruel. However, according to the blood demon's introduction, the effect of the Great Blood-Sucking Technique was very significant. It could greatly increase the speed of profound qi recovery. Of course, this kind of heaven-defying secret technique also had huge side effects. Once one absorbed too much blood and qi of living creatures, a part of the resentment of those living creatures would remain in one's body. This resentment was extremely harmful to the warrior. Of course, the blood demon was an ancient creature. This resentment was not only harmless to him, but also beneficial. Therefore, even if Zhuowen cultivated this secret technique, with the blood demon's existence, he did not need to be afraid of the side effects of the resentment. It's not difficult to comprehend a secret technique like the Great Blood-Sucking Technique. With your talent, you should have comprehended it almost. Seeing Zhuowen open his eyes, the blood demon said indifferently. Indeed, almost. Now, I can try the effect of the Great Blood-Sucking Technique. As he spoke, Zhuowen's gaze converged on the corpse of the giant python not far away. Although this giant python's strength was not high, its blood and qi were quite vigorous. It was quite useful for Zhuowen to experiment with the Great Blood-Sucking Technique. Touching the giant python's corpse with his right hand, Zhuowen silently operated the Great Blood-Sucking Technique. Suddenly, the vigorous blood and qi of the giant python's body flowed into Zhuowen's body like rivers flowing into the sea. Zhuowen's originally pale face became quite rosy at this moment. However, the giant python's blood and qi were simply a drop in the bucket for Zhuowen. At least, Zhuowen's current state of weakness had improved a lot. Slowly standing up, Zhuowen squeezed his palms, and a trace of joy appeared on his face. The Great Blood-Sucking Technique was indeed wonderful. At this moment, although his yuan qi was far from recovered, he could at least move like an ordinary person. Boy! There are many powerful creatures hidden in the underground river. Although you are seriously injured and can't use much of your martial strength, your mental strength should still be intact. Relying on your mental strength, you should be able to deal with some of the creatures in the underground river. The blood demon's voice sounded again. Zhuowen nodded and flicked his finger. Instantly, countless cold lights shot out. Under the control of his mental strength, the greater limitless sword formation revolved around his body, emitting a cold light. The creatures in this underground river are extremely aggressive. Just now, this demon concealed your aura, so until now, no creature has attacked you. Now that this demon is no longer hiding, you can deal with it yourself. The blood and qi of these creatures will be of great help to you. The blood demon's voice became softer and softer, and finally fell silent. The demon-suppressing green coffin slowly fell to the ground. It was obvious that the blood demon had fallen into a deep sleep. After all, the blood demon was suppressed by the demon-suppressing green coffin. The sealed blood demon had basically fallen into a deep sleep. On the cliff, Zhuowen had forcefully opened half of the coffin lid, which had inadvertently awakened the blood demon. Of course, the coffin lid was only half open, so the blood demon didn't stay awake for long. Now that the time was up, the blood demon naturally fell into a deep sleep again. Boy! Don't forget our deal. If you want to wake this demon up again, you have to open at least half of the green coffin. In the end, the blood demon's voice gradually faded into nothingness, whoosh whoosh whoosh. Once the blood demon fell asleep, Zhuowen could no longer hide his aura. The underground river in front of him surged violently, and countless sounds of water splashing could be heard. Following that, densely packed black shadows rushed out from the underground river, covering the sky and earth as they rushed towards Zhuowen. Looking carefully, Zhuowen discovered that these black shadows were all the pythons that had been killed by the demon-suppressing green coffin. These pythons were of different sizes. The large ones were dozens of feet long, and the small ones were only a few feet long. The larger these pythons were, the stronger they were, and the more vigorous their blood chi was. Greater Infinite Sword Formation, Blood Weeping Form. Zhuowen let out a low roar, and the mental energy in his Naiwen Palace burst out. In an instant, the area around the Greater Infinite Sword Formation flashed with countless bloody lights, turning into an Azura blood hell. Countless pythons rushed into the Greater Infinite Sword Formation and let out mournful cries. Then, all of them exploded into a bloody mist that filled the air. On the other hand, Zhuowen didn't hold back. He silently channeled the Great Blood Absorption technique in his body. The blood chi of countless pythons was absorbed by Zhuowen, and the injuries in Zhuowen's body were healing at a speed visible to the naked eye. Awesome! Feeling the injuries in his body gradually healing, Zhuowen couldn't help but feel comfortable all over. He roared at the sky and channeled the Great Blood Absorption technique even more vigorously. Endless blood chi poured into Zhuowen's body like rivers flowing into the sea. Logically speaking, an ordinary person wouldn't be able to withstand such a huge amount of blood chi entering their body. However, Zhuowen's physical body was terrifyingly strong, so he didn't feel anything at all. Time passed day by day, and in the blink of an eye, a month had passed. During this period, Zhuowen had been sitting cross-legged in front of the underground river, surrounded by the Greater Infinite Sword Formation. Once a living creature rushed out from the underground river, it would explode into a bloody mist and be absorbed by Zhuowen. Chapter 710. Underground River. My injuries have finally healed completely, but the side effects of this secret technique are a little troublesome. Slowly getting up, if one looked closely, Zhuowen's eyes were filled with a strange scarlet light, causing Zhuowen to look exceptionally demonic at this moment. In a month's time, Zhuowen had basically killed all the pythons in the underground river. Now, the underground river was like a pool of stagnant water, without any ripples at all, and the shore had become a bloody hell. With so many pythons killed, the resentment produced was extremely terrifying. This resentment accumulated in Zhuowen's body, causing Zhuowen's mind to be filled with thoughts of killing from time to time, which was why his eyes were so bloodshot. However, Zhuowen's willpower was far stronger than ordinary people. Although the resentment accumulated in his body was very strong, it was forcefully suppressed by Zhuowen. Bending down, he carried the demon-suppressing green coffin on his shoulder. Instantly, Zhuowen realized that the resentment in his body was being absorbed by the demon-suppressing green coffin like a tidal wave, and the scarlet light in Zhuowen's eyes also slowly receded. Feeling the resentment in his body dissipating, Zhuowen knew that this resentment had been absorbed by the blood demon. Kid! There is a beast spirit at the bottom of the underground river. Help me obtain this beast spirit. Suddenly, a familiar voice rang out in Zhuowen's mind. Xiaohei. Hearing this voice, Zhuowen's face was filled with joy. He never thought that Xiaohei would wake up at this moment. Ever since Xiaohei had materialized his armor spirit in order to save Zhuowen in the Baichuan Marquis residence, he had not woken up since then, and Zhuowen had always felt guilty about it. Now that he saw that Xiaohei had awakened, Zhuowen was naturally extremely happy. This Dragon Lord's vitality has been greatly damaged, and this awakening is only temporary. This dragon lord can sense that there is a beast spirit at the bottom of the underground river. If you obtain this beast spirit, this dragon lord will devour this beast spirit, and this dragon lord should be able to completely awaken. Xiao Hei's voice sounded extremely tired, and his voice became softer and softer. Brat! This dragon lord cannot be awake for too long. Remember, you must retrieve that beast spirit, otherwise this dragon lord can only continue to sleep. After saying this, Xiao Hei's voice completely disappeared. Zhuowen knew that Xiao Hei had probably fallen into a deep sleep again. Beast spirit? Staring at the river ahead, Zhuowen's eyes flickered. Zhuowen was no stranger to beast spirits. A beast spirit was the spirit of a meta-beast. Meta-beasts that possessed a beast spirit were basically at the fourth reverend realm and above. It was just like how a human martial artist would form a nascent soul in his dantian when his cultivation reached the fourth reverend realm. When a meta-beast's strength reached the four supremes realm, its body would also nurture a meta-beast spirit. In fact, this beast spirit's function was equivalent to the nascent soul of a four supremes realm martial artist. Once the meta-beast's physical body was destroyed, it could still rely on the beast spirit to survive. However, its strength would be greatly reduced, and it would not be able to come into contact with the outside world for a long time. Without a physical body, the power of a beast spirit would continuously decrease over time. Therefore, most beast spirits would seal themselves in a remote place and wait for their vitality to recover and rebuild their physical body. Zhuowen did not expect that there would actually be a beast spirit at the bottom of the underground river. If it was not for Xiao Hei's reminder, he would have missed it. Let's go in and take a look. Since the beast spirit was extremely important to Xiao Hei, Zhuowen would not sit back and do nothing. With a stomp of his foot, he jumped into the underground river. The water of the underground river was ink black. After Zhuowen dived into the water, his vision was not very far, and he could only rely on his mental strength to explore his surroundings. It's really deep. After diving for more than 2 hours, Zhuowen was shocked to discover that he had not reached the bottom of the river. He had already dived for nearly 1,000 meters. After diving for another hour, Zhuowen finally reached the bottom of the river. Stepping on the soft riverbed, Zhuowen used his mental strength to vigilantly survey his surroundings. Using his mental strength, Zhuowen was shocked to discover that there were layers of cliffs at the bottom of the riverbed. At the bottom of the cliffs, there was a dilapidated cave entrance. This cave entrance was extremely deep, as if it was bottomless. The beast spirit should be in the cave entrance. There was nothing else around the cliffs. Zhuowen knew that the chances of the beast spirit being in the cave entrance were very high. Thinking of this, Zhuowen stomped his foot and turned into a shadow as he flew into the cave entrance. Inside the cave entrance was a narrow tunnel. The tunnel was filled with bumpy grooves, like the skin of a toad. It was extremely ugly. After walking for about 10 minutes, Zhuowen discovered that the tunnel actually curved upwards. With a stomp of his foot, with the buoyancy of the water current, Zhuowen's speed increased by a lot as he floated upwards. After another 10 minutes, the sound of water splashing could be heard. Following that, Zhuowen leaped up and executed his movement skill, landing in a stone cave. There was not the slightest bit of water flow in this place. Instead, there was air flowing. This made Zhuowen rather surprised that there was such a space at the bottom of the underground river. It seems that the beast spirit is in there. There must be a reason for this abnormality. Zhuowen knew that for there to be such an unsuitable space at the bottom of the underground river, there must be some kind of secret inside. Let's go in and take a look. As he spoke, Zhuowen flew towards the space in front of him. A white light flashed in front of him, causing Zhuowen's speed to increase by a lot. When Zhuowen completely arrived at the white light, a strong white light flashed past, causing Zhuowen to involuntarily squint his eyes. Slowly opening his eyes, Zhuowen suddenly discovered that what appeared in front of him was a rather spacious stone hall. In the middle of the stone hall, there were 2 balls of light floating quietly. The ball of light on the left had a baby-like figure curled up quietly. The ball of light on the right was not in the shape of a human. Instead, it was in the shape of a tiger or leopard. A nascent soul and a beast spirit. Looking at the ball of light in the middle, Zhuowen's eyes lit up, and a look of pleasant surprise appeared on his face. A beast spirit was naturally of no use to Zhuowen. However, a nascent soul was much more beneficial to Zhuowen. A nascent soul contained the powerful energy of a fourth revered martial artist. If Zhuowen could obtain it, then Zhuowen could use the rich energy of the nascent soul to break through to the ultimate seven-will emperor realm. The aura of a beast spirit. The moment Zhuowen stepped into the stone hall, Xiaohei's voice rang out in Zhuowen's mind once again. Following that, a black light flashed out from between Zhuowen's brows and turned into a Xiaohei dog. At this moment, Xiaohei's spirit body was rather dim. It was obvious that it was the after effect of forcefully materializing the armor spirit back then. Until now, it had not fully recovered. Whoosh! In an instant, Xiaohei pounced on the beast spirit. There was a thirsty light in its eyes, causing Zhuowen's hair to stand on end. Xiaohei's arrival immediately alerted the beast spirit. The beast spirit in the ball of light suddenly opened its eyes and stared at Xiaohei, who was flying towards it with a ferocious glint in its eyes. A terrifying aura poured out. You dare to compete with me in terms of aura? You're courting death. Xiaohei cursed. An even more terrifying aura was released from its small body and instantly suppressed the aura on the beast spirit. Roar! The moment Xiaohei released the aura from its body, the beast spirit in the ball of light was filled with fear. With a whoosh, it actually fled towards the exit. Xiaohei's aura was too terrifying. This was definitely a meta beast of a higher level than it. You're already right in front of me. Do you think you can still escape? Xiaohei laughed coldly. With a wave of its little paw, an ink-black energy surged out and turned into a rope. It tied up the escaping beast spirit. Then, Xiaohei pounced on it ungracefully and opened its mouth to take a bite. In an instant, the beast spirit was swallowed into Xiaohei's stomach. Xiaohei's originally dim spirit body became more solid after swallowing the beast spirit. This beast spirit's power is too weak. It's only from the Xuanzun realm. The energy of this beast spirit is too little. Xiaohei smacked its lips and complained unhappily. Looking at the shameless Xiaohei, Zhuowen's face was filled with black lines. However, he was extremely happy. Although Xiaohei's vitality had not fully recovered, at least it would not fall into a deep sleep after swallowing the beast spirit. Kid! Your luck is pretty good. There is actually a nascent soul in this stone hall. However, this nascent soul was not too strong when it was alive. It was only from the Xuanzun realm. Xiaohei glanced at the nascent soul and lightly said. Zhuowen nodded. Even if it was only the nascent soul of a Xuanzun realm martial artist, the energy contained within was enough to help Zhuowen break through to the ultimate seven-will emperor realm. It was even possible that he could reach a higher level. If he could smoothly break through to the ultimate seven-will emperor realm, then, by relying on his spear intent, he wouldn't need to fear Huangfu Wuji. As for Grand Lily, Zhuowen wasn't too sure. If his guess wasn't wrong, then Grand Lily's cultivation should be around the ultimate eight-will emperor realm. When Grand Lily had chased after Zhuowen, he was afraid that Grand Lily hadn't used its full strength. If Grand Lily had used its full strength, then even Zhuowen would have been in danger. As he thought of Grand Lily and Huangfu Wuji, Zhuowen's eyes filled with a thick chill. These two people had forced Zhuowen into such a sorry state. He, Zhuowen, would not let this matter rest. I must increase my strength as soon as possible. Zhuowen knew that if he wanted to settle this debt, then he would have to increase his own strength. With Zhuowen's current strength, he could definitely enter the top 10 rankings of the Azure Emperor Proclamation. However, entering the top 5 would be difficult. There were only 5 spots available to enter Jiaxin College. Only the top 5 geniuses on the Azure Emperor proclamation would be able to obtain a spot. Kid. This nascent soul has suffered heavy injuries. It has actually fallen into a coma. Take it and refine it. Xiao He arrived in front of the nascent soul and pulled it out with its small claws. With a wave of its claws, the nascent soul was tossed into Zhuowen's hands. The moment Zhuowen touched the nascent soul, he could feel an extremely surging energy within it. This energy far surpassed what an ultimate Emperor Realm cultivator should possess. There's only a month left until the Peach Blossom Origin Diagram Adventure. I hope that I can thoroughly refine this nascent soul in this month. Zhuowen had nearly 100 marks on his body. He knew that entering the top 100 rankings of the Azure Emperor proclamation shouldn't be a problem, so he didn't plan on competing with the other geniuses. After all, if he went out, Huangfu Wuji and Grand Lily would probably catch wind of this. Although his injuries were healed, his strength was still insufficient. There was no need for him to go out and attract attention. Chapter 711. Ranking of the 9 counties. Time flew by quickly. There was only a month left before the Peach Blossom Origin Diagram closed. During this month, the geniuses in the Heart of Darkness went crazy. If they wanted to enter the top 100 of the Azure Emperor rankings, they had to fight with their lives on the line and obtain as many imprints as possible. Otherwise, they would still be eliminated in the end. This month was the most intense month of competition. Almost every place in the Heart of Darkness had intense fights. The losers would either be killed or discard their imprints and be eliminated. On the other hand, the top 10 monstrous geniuses of the previous Green Emperor leaderboard had ceased their activities in the last month. They had already collected enough seals in the past 2 months, so there was no need for them to compete for more seals. Those who were fighting for the imprints were basically those who weren't ranked very high or those who had just risen up. When a month passed and there was only 1 day left, the number of cultivators left in the Heart of Darkness dwindled. There were less than 200 of them left. On the last day, Zhuowen, who was in the cave at the bottom of the underground river, silently opened his eyes. At this moment, the aura around his body had reached its peak. The nascent soul in his right hand, which was originally several feet large, had shrunk to half its original size. Rumble. A terrifying aura surged out from Zhuowen's body. Zhuowen slowly raised his head. His eyes shone brightly and the corners of his mouth curled up slightly. He had successfully broken through to the ultimate 7 Wheels Emperor realm. All that was left was to wait for the 7 wheels of heaven and earth tribulation. Above the underground river, countless dark clouds slowly gathered. They were like black dragons that covered the entire sky. Lightning flashed between the clouds like pythons as a terrifying heavenly aura slowly descended. To Zhuowen, the 7 rounds of heaven and earth tribulation lightning tribulations weren't difficult at all. This was especially so after Zhuowen's great son Nirvana had broken through to the 2nd level. With the strength of his physical body, he didn't fear the lightning tribulations at all. Rumble. Bolts of lightning struck down from the dark clouds and drilled into the dark river, bombarding Zhuowen, who was hiding in the cliff at the bottom of the dark river. Suddenly, the entire cliff shattered into pieces, revealing Zhuowen's figure. At the bottom of the river, Zhuowen raised his head and looked at the lightning bolts that were rushing towards him. He was not afraid at all. He stretched out his right hand, and golden light covered his body. He directly grabbed the lightning bolts in his hand, and with a clench of his fist, the lightning bolts shattered into nothingness. Boom! Boom! Bolts of lightning came crashing down. Zhuowen did not have any defensive measures. He simply waved his hand and annihilated the bolts of lightning into nothingness. Zhuowen's physical body was too strong. Even though these thunderbolts were extremely powerful, they still couldn't hurt Zhuowen in the slightest. There were a total of 49 lightning strikes, and the last one was the most powerful. Furthermore, it was not an ordinary light blue lightning, but a strange purple lightning. The power of this last purple lightning was extremely terrifying. Even Zhuowen had to arrange the greater limitless sword array around his body in order to barely block this purple lightning. When the last purple lightning was annihilated, Zhuowen stomped his foot and leapt up from the bottom of the dark river, landing on the bank of the dark river. His eyes flashed with a bright light. He had finally broken through to the ultimate seven-will emperor realm. With his spear intent, Zhuowen no longer feared Huangfu Wuji. Pang! 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 Not long after Zhuowen successfully crossed the tribulation, the entire peach blossom origin diagram was filled with the sound of breaking air. All of the martial artists in the heart of darkness looked up at the sky. They were stunned to find that above the void, there were actually countless white pillars of light. The white pillars of light filled every corner of the heart of darkness. Wherever there were martial artists, the white pillars of light would sweep towards them. A pillar of light passed through the cliff and swept towards the dark river. At this moment, Zhuowen, who was standing on the bank, was caught off guard and was immediately hit by this pillar of light. Zhuowen did not overreact. The moment the pillar of light swept into his body, he only felt a trace of warmth. At the same time, an oppressive voice sounded in his mind. Martial artists in the Peach Blossom Origin Diagram, the trial of the Peach Blossom Origin Diagram has come to an end. This emperor will now teleport everyone out. Do not resist. The owner of this majestic voice was the Azure Emperor. Zhuowen did not resist, allowing the power of the Pillar of Light to pull him out of the Peach Blossom Origin Diagram. Whoosh! The pillars of light that flew into the heart of darkness rose into the sky at the same time, disappearing in the blink of an eye. When Zhuowen slowly opened his eyes, what appeared in front of him was a large square made of white marble. At the end of the square was an extremely majestic palace. It was the Golden Imperial Palace. At this moment, in front of the Golden Imperial Palace, there was a row of long tables. On the tables, the Azure Emperor and the other almighty experts were all sitting, their gazes focused on the returning geniuses in the square. There is still half a day left before the 1-year period ends. Since the Azure Emperor has already teleported us out, it can only mean that the Heart of Darkness has already filtered out only 100 geniuses. Looking around at the similarly confused faces of the surrounding geniuses, Zhuowen discovered that the number of geniuses that had appeared in the square was just over 100. The trial of the Peach Blossom Origin Diagram did not necessarily have to end after a year. If the numerous geniuses that had entered the Peach Blossom Origin Diagram had been eliminated in advance, and there were just 100 geniuses left, the Azure Emperor would have ended the trial of the Peach Blossom Origin Diagram. Zhuowen, you are indeed fine. 2 crisp voices sounded out. Qing Lian and Luo Xing immediately saw Zhuowen and hurried to Zhuowen's side, their beautiful faces filled with joy. They never thought that Zhuowen would actually be able to successfully escape from Huangfu Wuji's hands. It seemed that Zhuowen was much stronger than they had imagined. Zhuowen smiled and nodded. Zhuowen was not surprised that Qing Lian and Luo Xing had entered the top 100. After all, the two of them had close to 100 imprints on them. As long as the two of them paid attention and did not rashly fight others, it would be very easy for them to last until the end. Of the top 100 geniuses, besides the 3 of them from Muqin County, Lve Tao had also successfully entered. However, what surprised Zhuowen was that Ling Wushuang, who was not particularly strong, had also entered the top 100. Zhu Qi, who did not have much of a relationship with Zhuowen, had also smoothly entered the top 100. Besides Zhu Qi, there were 2 other geniuses from the house of Marquis Qin that had also entered the top 100. In other words, there were 8 geniuses from Muqin County that had entered the top 100. This number was already very good, and it was even possible for them to enter the top 3 of the Battle of the 9 Counties. What's going on? How come that boy Zhuowen didn't die? Even Grand Lily made a move, but she still didn't manage to kill him. Not too far away, Huangfu Wuji also noticed the figure of Zhuowen that had appeared in the top 100. He frowned. He was well aware of Grand Lily's strength. Killing Zhuowen should have been an easy matter for her. On the other side, Grand Lily also noticed the lively Zhuowen. Her beautiful eyes couldn't help but shrink as her eyebrows furrowed together. He actually didn't die after falling off the cliff. This Zhuowen's life is really great. However, once the ranking tournament begins, his luck will not be so good. Her beautiful eyes narrowed, Grand Lily's face was filled with a dark chill. She had to thoroughly eradicate this boy Zhuowen. Not only because Zhuowen had the marriage contract, but also because Zhuowen had spoken rudely to her many times in the heart of darkness. Just this point alone was enough for Grand Lily to sentence Zhuowen to death in her heart. Zhuowen also noticed Huangfu Wuji and Grand Lily's unfriendly gazes. The corners of his mouth curled up, revealing a cold smile. Even if these two didn't look for him, he, Zhuowen, would look for them. If it weren't for Huangfu Wuji and Grand Lily, then Zhuowen wouldn't have ended up in such a miserable state in the heart of darkness. He had even narrowly escaped death. The Battle of the Nine Counties has come to an end. Congratulations to those who entered the top 100. You will have the opportunity to enter the Azure Emperor list and become the new top 100 geniuses of the Azure Emperor list. At the center of the table, the Azure Emperor slowly stood up, a warm smile on his face like a spring breeze. The Battle of the Nine Counties has come to an end. Now, this Emperor will announce the final rankings of the 9 counties. The rankings are based on the number of geniuses that have entered the Azure Emperor list. The greater the number, the higher the ranking. As soon as the Azure Emperor said this, the other almighties on the table nodded. In fact, they already knew in their hearts how many geniuses had been selected. After all, the 100 people had appeared before them. They all knew how many geniuses under their command had been selected. Among them, the one with the ugliest expression was the Lifire County Lord, Flamewing. His Lifire County's geniuses had almost been completely annihilated. Even the number 1 genius, young Master Lai Yun, had been killed. Without a doubt, the Lifire County was at the bottom of the rankings. Many of the supreme elders on the table looked at Flamewing with ridicule in their eyes. Among them, the proudest one was naturally Lu Hantian. At the beginning, Flamewing had been so arrogant in front of him. Lu Hantian had long since founded an eyesore. Fortunately, Zhuowen had fought for him and exterminated all the geniuses of the Lifire County, restoring the dignity of the Muqin County. First place is the Imperial Capital County. There are a total of 56 geniuses that have entered the Azure Emperor list. As the Azure Emperor spoke, everyone remained silent. The Imperial Capital County was the leader of the 9 counties. Among them, the 5 great clans, Azure Dragon Branch Temple, and the Imperial family were all forces that were not weaker than the county lords. In fact, they were even more terrifying than some of the county lords. The Imperial Capital County had many talents and was much stronger than the other 8 counties. Therefore, no one was too surprised that more than half of the geniuses had entered the Azure Emperor list. Second place, Muqin County, 8 geniuses entered. As soon as he said this, many people around looked at Lu Hantian in surprise. This time, Muqin County was really proud and elated. They had improved so much. They had directly gone from the second last place in the last competition to the second place in this competition. Of course, Muqin County's achievements were mostly due to Zhuowen's efforts. Chapter 712. Rainbow Essence Soul Stone. The Azure Emperor stared at Flamewing's departing figure and didn't say anything. Instead, he stared at Zhuowen, who was standing in the middle of the plaza. Zhuowen was getting more and more interesting. He was not simple to be able to make the Lihua County so miserable. The results of the 9 counties ranking are out. Next up is the Azure Emperor leaderboard ranking battle that everyone is looking forward to. The Lotus Emperor stood up slowly and his clear voice resounded throughout the entire square. It was like thunder, enlightening everyone. Hearing this, all the geniuses in the square looked at Emperor Qing with great anticipation. Many of them did not care about the top 100 on the Azure Emperor leaderboard. What they cared about was the ranking battle that the Lotus Emperor mentioned. I have promised that I will personally enlighten the top 10 on the Azure Emperor leaderboard. The top 5 will each receive a heaven-ranked spiritual treasure and the right to participate in the entrance test of Jiaoshan Academy. The top 3 will receive all the rewards and I will personally confer them the title of Marquis. They will enjoy supreme status and glory. The corners of the Lotus Emperor's mouth curled up as he felt the burning gazes from the crowd. He announced the rewards of the ranking battle to the public. Whoosh! A wave of discussion broke out in the square. The geniuses' eyes were filled with anticipation. The Lotus Emperor's rewards were too generous. They were so generous that they were overwhelmed with excitement. The empowerment of an imperial power realm expert. It is said that this kind of enlightenment does not have any side effects and can increase one's cultivation level by 100%. If one's cultivation level reaches the ultimate 9-will Emperor realm, he can definitely advance to the Xuanzuan realm with the Lotus Emperor's enlightenment. That's right. Let's see if we can enter the top 10 on the Azure Emperor leaderboard. This is a rare opportunity. Difficult. The current top 10 on the Azure Emperor leaderboard are all monstrous geniuses. It will be harder than ascending to heaven to shake their positions. Many of the geniuses in the square were in high spirits. However, there were also many who shook their heads and sighed. They knew that it would be difficult for them to enter the top 10 on the Azure Emperor leaderboard. The ranking tournament will be held in 3 months. The location will be in the plaza of the throne room. I hope that everyone can use these 3 months to properly consolidate their cultivation. With that, Emperor Qing flicked his sleeves, turned around, and entered the throne room alone without any hesitation. Above the throne room, Mu Shui and Elder Qiu stood quietly on the huge vermilion bird, overlooking the many geniuses in the square below. Miss Zhuowen's talent was indeed not bad, and his progress was also quite fast. However, with his current strength, it's a little difficult for him to enter the top 5 of the Azure Emperor leaderboard. Elder Qiu shook his head. Elder Qiu. You are wrong. He has great potential. He is a carp that has yet to transform into a dragon. All he needs is an opportunity, and Zhuowen will transform into a dragon one day. And that day won't be too far away. Mu Shui gently brushed aside the messy hair on her forehead as her beautiful eyes stared at the figure below. Her voice was as clear as a lark. Even if this child enters the top 5 of the Azure Emperor leaderboard, not just anyone can pass the entrance test of the Divine Academy. Only those monstrous geniuses in the Eastern lands have a chance of passing the entrance test. In my opinion, in the entire Qing Xian Empire, only the first prince, Huangfu Wudao, has a slight chance of passing the entrance test of the Divine Academy. As for the others, the chances are too low. Elder Qiu shook his head. He was still not very optimistic about Zhuowen. Although Zhuowen's progress was indeed fast, his cultivation was still too low. Not to mention Mu Shui, he was not even comparable to the weakest genius of the Divine Academy. Elder Qiu. When we return, go to the Drunken Spring Pavilion on my behalf and give this item to Zhuowen. Mu Shui's beautiful eyes flickered as she stretched out her slender, jade-like hand. In the center of her flawless palm, a 7-colored crystal had unknowingly appeared. It flickered with a rather gorgeous 7-colored light. 7-colored soul essence stone. Miss, you actually want to give this item to that brat Zhuowen? This is absolutely not possible. This old man cannot agree. Looking at the 7-colored crystal in Mu Shui's palm, Elder Qiu's expression changed greatly. There was a trace of shock and anger in his voice. He was very clear about how important this 7-colored soul essence stone was to Mu Shui. Elder Qiu. Don't tell me you won't even listen to my words. Mu Shui's beautiful face that was as calm as water finally revealed a trace of a strange expression. Her voice contained a trace of displeasure. But, Elder Qiu still wanted to say something, but unfortunately, he was rudely interrupted by Mu Shui. No buts. I've already made up my mind. If you won't give it to him, then I will, Mu Shui said coldly. Sigh. This old man will send it to the drunken spring pavilion tonight. With a low sigh, Elder Chiu finally compromised. He was very clear about Mu Shui's stubborn character. She would definitely not change her mind once she had decided on something. Elder Chiu, thank you very much this time. Seeing that Elder Chiu had agreed, Mu Shui's voice became much gentler. This matter has been settled. Let's return first. When night falls, this old man will personally make a trip to the drunken spring pavilion. Elder Chiu nodded. With a wave of his sleeve, he directed the vermilion bird to leave the throne room. On the square, after the Azure Emperor left, the various almighties on the table walked into the square and came to the side of their respective subordinates. Zhuowen. What you did this time was really satisfying. When you killed young Master Lai Yun, the expression on Flaming Flame's face was extremely interesting. As soon as Lu Hantian arrived at the square, he put his arm around Zhuowen's shoulder and gave him a thumbs up. Lu Hantian, who was behind Lu Nantian, was also full of smiles. In the previous War of the Nine Counties, their Muqin County had been targeted by the Lihua County. Almost all of their troops had been annihilated. The two counties could be said to be feuds. This time, Zhuowen had domineeringly killed young Master Lai Yun and the other geniuses of the Lifire Prefecture, ruthlessly ruining the prestige of the Lifire Prefecture. Lu Nantian was secretly delighted in his heart, and the more he looked at Zhuowen, the more pleasing he felt to the eye. At this moment, Lve Tao had also gathered beside Zhuowen. He naturally knew nothing about Zhuowen killing the geniuses of the Lihua County. However, from Lu Hantian's words, he knew the whole story. Zhuowen. Did you really kill young Master Lai Yun of the Lihua County? Lve Tao was still in disbelief. Sir Lai Yun was ranked above him, and his strength had reached the late stage of the Six-Wheel Emperor realm. He was extremely powerful. Although Lve Tao admitted that Zhuowen was very powerful, he should not be so ridiculously powerful that even Sir Lai Yun had been killed. Young Master Lai Yun was indeed killed by Zhuowen. Also, Zhuowen's current cultivation is extremely high. He's already at the peak of the ultimate emperor realm. In the heart of darkness, even when Ao Xue avoided him. Zhuowen hadn't spoken when Luo Xing, who stood by his side, spoke before him, and her beautiful eyes carried a wisp of burning desire. Until now, the scene of Zhuowen killing the geniuses of the Lihua County, killing young Master Lai Yun, and forcing Wen Ao Xue to retreat for the extreme violet ice grass was deeply imprinted in Luo Xing's mind. Originally, Luo Xing had a rather good impression of Zhuowen. Coupled with the fact that he had obtained the extreme violet ice grass for her in the heart of darkness, and when she thought of Zhuowen's powerful figure, Luo Xing worshipped Zhuowen. Seeing Luo Xing's appearance, Lve Tao smiled bitterly. With his keen insight, he could naturally see that Luo Xing's attitude towards Zhuowen was not ordinary. She had probably already fallen in love with Zhuowen. However, what shocked Lve Tao even more was Zhuowen's cultivation. Before entering the peach blossom origin diagram, Zhuowen's cultivation had clearly been on par with his, but now it had far surpassed his. In the peach blossom origin diagram, Lve Tao's cultivation had naturally improved as well. He had reached the mid-stage of the ultimate emperor realm, but compared to Zhuowen, he paled in comparison. The peak of the ultimate emperor realm, coupled with Zhuowen's own comprehension of spear intent, no wonder young Master Lai Yun had been defeated by Zhuowen. Zhuowen did not say anything. If they knew that his true cultivation had actually reached the level of the ultimate emperor realm, who knew what Lve Tao and the others would think? This time, I really have to hand it to you. Zhuowen, with your strength, you probably have a very good chance of entering the top 10 of the Azure Emperor rankings this time. Lve Tao took a deep breath and revealed a scholarly smile. He looked at Zhuowen with a sincere gaze and smiled. Top 10 of the Azure Emperor rankings? That's overestimating this little bastard. As soon as Lve Tao said this, an untimely voice immediately rang out from behind. Following that, a black-clothed youth with a cold expression walked over with a group of people. Zhuowen turned his head and immediately saw this group of people. However, his gaze was not focused on the black-clothed young man in the lead. Instead, it was focused on the figure walking beside the young man. He saw that the person's right arm was empty. He only had one arm left. Feng Xiang. Looks like the punishment of only cutting off one arm was too light. The one-armed youth walking beside the black-clothed youth was Feng Xiang from the Feng clan, who had a conflict with Zhuowen at the appraisal hall. The identity of this group of people was naturally unknown. They were from the Feng clan, one of the 5 great clans. As soon as Zhuowen said this, Feng Xiang's expression froze. His eyes were filled with hatred. He would never forget what had happened at the appraisal hall that day. He, Feng Xiang, was a genius of the Feng clan. However, in front of everyone, he had lost an arm to an unknown youth. He had been utterly humiliated. During the Battle of the 9 Counties, Zhuowen's stunning performance had naturally been witnessed by him. He was also shocked by Zhuowen's terrifying strength. He had not lost unjustly back then. Even so, Feng Xiang's hatred for Zhuowen grew even more intense. The hatred of losing an arm was absolutely irreconcilable. Feng Xiang simply could not swallow this anger. Fortunately, he was very close to Feng Yong. After some exaggeration, Feng Yong had finally decided to stand up for him. This made him fearless. Zhuowen. Don't be too arrogant. Do you really think that you can do whatever you want in the Imperial City? I'm afraid you're not qualified. Feng Xiang gathered his courage and said coldly. Looks like cutting off one arm is still too little. Your other arm is also an eyesore. Why don't I cut it off for you as well? At least it will look more symmetrical. Zhuowen's gaze gradually turned cold. He stomped his foot and stared coldly at Feng Xiang. The latter could not help but tremble and involuntarily take 2 steps back. Zhuowen's words had actually caused Feng Xiang to retreat in fear. Feng Xiang's reaction immediately attracted many disdainful gazes from the crowd. Feng Xiang felt his cheeks burning as he felt these gazes. You dare to be so arrogant after injuring someone from the Feng clan? Chapter 713. Feng Xiang's death, Zhuowen. Be careful, this person is the #1 genius of the Feng family, Feng Yong. He is extremely strong and once challenged Huangfu Wuji. He lost to Huangfu Wuji in 1 move and is ranked 8th on the Green Emperor list. The black-clothed youth took a step forward. Behind Zhuowen, Lv Tao's face slightly changed as he quickly explained. Lu Hantian and Lu Nantian did not stop him. Feng Yong and Zhuowen were both juniors. As the older generation, they should not interfere. It would not be good if they were accused of bullying others. Moreover, Zhuowen was not weak, so Lu Hantian was not worried about Zhuowen. Feng family's Feng Yong. Nodding, Zhuowen's eyes focused on the black-clothed youth in front of him as a cold smile appeared on his face. Hee hee. Since you know my name, I'll give you a chance. Kneel down and apologize to Feng Xiang, and break one of your arms. Feng Yong indifferently glanced at Zhuowen. Although Zhuowen's performance in the Peach Blossom origin diagram was amazing, in Feng Yong's eyes, Zhuowen's strength was not even worth mentioning. After all, he was one of the top 10 existences on the Green Emperor list. He had his own pride, so how could he look down on Zhuowen? With Feng Yong standing up for him, Feng Xiang's courage also increased. He stared at Zhuowen and sneered, Zhuowen, this is the result of provoking our Feng family. Now that big brother Feng Yong has spoken, kneel down and apologize to me. Do you think a piece of trash like you has the qualifications to talk nonsense in front of me? Zhuowen indifferently glanced at Feng Xiang. With a wave of his right hand, a bone spear appeared in his palm. With a step, Zhuowen rushed towards Feng Xiang like a hurricane, his speed reaching the extreme. How dare you attack me in front of me? Zhuo Wen's sudden attack instantly shocked Feng Xiang, causing Feng Xiang to involuntarily retreat a few steps. Feng Yong even roared furiously and blocked in front of Feng Xiang. His right hand suddenly punched out, and terrifying origin energy converged into countless strong winds that were extremely formidable. My target is not you. Just as he was about to reach Feng Yong, the corners of Zhuo Wen's mouth curled up slightly. He formed a seal with both hands, and 3 pairs of lightning wings instantly sprouted from his back. His speed instantly soared to the extreme. It was as if he had teleported and dodged Feng Yong's attack. Not good. Before Feng Yong could even react, Zhuo Wen had already disappeared from his sight. When he finally reacted, his expression changed slightly, and he hurriedly looked behind him. Whoosh! In an instant, Zhuo Wen arrived in front of Feng Xiang. His expression was extremely cold as he stretched out his right hand to grab Feng Xiang. At this moment, Feng Xiang's face was pale. Seeing Zhuo Wen's hand coming towards him, he gritted his teeth and took out a defensive spiritual treasure from his spiritual ring. It's useless. Zhuo Wen shook his head. His right hand smashed onto the defensive spiritual treasure. The golden light exploded, and the defensive spiritual treasure was directly shattered into countless pieces. Feng Xiang was directly lifted up by Zhuo Wen in his hand as if he was lifting up a little chick. With a stomp of his foot, Zhuo Wen carried Feng Xiang and retreated dozens of steps. The moment he retreated, the ground where he was originally standing collapsed, and a huge crater was formed. Feng Yong stood in the crater with a gloomy face. Zhuo Wen, let go of Feng Xiang. The veins on Feng Yong's forehead bulged as he fiercely said. Right in front of his eyes, his men had actually been caught by Zhuo Wen in such a blatant manner. He, Feng Yong, had lost all his face. At this moment, his heart was filled with monstrous rage. Zhuo Wen completely ignored Feng Yong. With a flick of the long spear in his right hand, Feng Xiang's remaining left arm was cut off at the shoulder. Blood spurted out wildly. You still want me to kneel down and apologize? Zhuo Wen stared coldly at Feng Xiang. Every word he said was as cold as the dead of winter. No. I don't dare anymore. Zhuo Wen, let me go. I will kneel down and apologize to you. Please don't kill me. Feng Xiang's forehead was covered in cold sweat. His face was deathly pale, and his eyes were filled with fear and regret. He clearly knew that Zhuo Wen was a maleficent star. Why did he still provoke him today? If he didn't find Zhuo Wen, he wouldn't have ended up like this. He regretted it. Zhuo Wen, I told you to let go of Feng Xiang. Didn't you hear me? Seeing Feng Xiang's arm cut off, Feng Yong's face was extremely gloomy. This Zhuo Wen in front of him was too arrogant. He actually dared to cripple a member of the Feng family in front of him. The surrounding people also noticed the commotion, especially when Zhuo Wen cut off Feng Xiang's left arm in front of Feng Yong. Many people had strange looks in their eyes. You want to attack me now? Feng Xiang is in my hands. If you attack, Feng Xiang's life will be in danger. Holding Feng Xiang in his left hand, Zhuo Wen faced Feng Yong with a mocking smile. Big brother Feng Yong. Don't attack. This Zhuo Wen will really kill me. Feng Xiang rolled his dead fish eyes and kept struggling in Zhuo Wen's hands. He knew that if Zhuo Wen dared to cut off his arm, then he would really dare to kill him. If Feng Yong really acted rashly, then he would definitely die. You know that we are from the Feng family and you still dare to attack us. I don't believe that you dare to kill Feng Xiang. Feng Yong coldly snorted. The Feng family was one of the 5 great families. In the entire imperial city, it was considered an extremely powerful force. He didn't believe that Zhuo Wen would kill Feng Xiang. After all, if he killed Feng Xiang, he would create a deadly feud. The surrounding people also looked at Zhuo Wen with great interest. They also didn't believe that Zhuo Wen would really kill Feng Xiang. After all, creating a feud and creating a deadly feud were two different concepts. If he didn't kill Feng Xiang, the conflict between Zhuowen and the Feng family could still be resolved. However, if he killed Feng Xiang, it would create a feud that was basically impossible to resolve. Feng Yong was very confident that Zhuowen would definitely not dare to kill Feng Xiang. Therefore, he didn't have any scruples. He directly rushed towards Zhuowen with a step. It seems that my words are nothing to you. Shaking his head, Zhuowen suddenly clenched his right hand. The crisp sound of bones cracking could be heard. Then, the originally lively Feng Xiang's neck tilted to one side. He had actually stopped breathing. Killed. Zhuowen actually killed Feng Xiang. The surroundings were silent, so silent that it was frightening. Everyone's gaze was focused on the completely dead Feng Xiang in Zhuowen's hand. No one said a word. Feng Yong was also stunned. He also didn't expect that Zhuowen would really kill Feng Xiang. Moreover, it was right in front of him. After a moment of daze, Feng Yong's heart was replaced by a towering rage. You actually dared to kill him? Feng Yong suppressed his anger and said. The one who killed him wasn't me, but you. Didn't I just say that if you dared to move, Feng Xiang would be dead for sure? You didn't listen. Instead, you wanted to attack me. You forced me to kill him. Zhuowen's eyes gradually turned cold as he casually threw Feng Xiang's corpse at Feng Yong's feet. No one can live after killing a member of the Feng family. You must die. As he spoke, Feng Yong suddenly rushed towards Zhuowen. A terrifying aura surged out of his body like a wild beast, crushing towards Zhuowen. Peak of the ultimate seven-will emperor realm? Zhuowen narrowed his eyes. The moment Feng Yong's aura surged out, Zhuowen could feel that Feng Yong's aura was no weaker than Huangfu Wuji's. He was also at the peak of the ultimate seven-will emperor realm. However, I don't necessarily fear you. Zhuowen licked his lips and stepped forwards. A similarly terrifying aura surged out. Then, spear intent erupted, forming a domain of spear shadows around his body. At this moment, Feng Xiang's right palm was covered with a red light as it smashed towards Zhuowen's face. Zhuowen stepped forwards and the bone spear in his right hand flicked upwards. The sharp spear tip instantly collided with Feng Xiang's right palm. Ding! The crisp sound of metal striking metal rang out. The two figures froze for a moment before a terrifying energy surged out from between them. The ground beneath their feet completely cracked open. Dang dang dang. The two of them retreated at the same time. Zhuowen retreated 10 steps while Feng Yong retreated 5. It was clear that Feng Yong had the upper hand in the exchange just now. After all, Zhuowen had just broken through to the early stage of the ultimate seven-will emperor realm, while Feng Yong was already at the peak of the ultimate seven-will emperor realm. The difference in strength between the two was quite large. It was already inconceivable that Zhuowen could force Feng Yong to retreat. Early stage of the ultimate seven-will emperor realm? He has even grasped the power of concept. Feng Yong's eyes revealed a trace of shock as he steadied himself. This Zhuowen in front of him was also an ultimate seven-will emperor realm martial artist. What was even more unbelievable was that this boy had comprehended the power of concept that martial artists yearned for even in their dreams. Early stage of the ultimate seven-will emperor realm? In Muqin County's team, Luo Xing, Lv Tao, and the others were also shocked. Luo Xing had just said that Zhuowen's strength was at the peak of the ultimate six-wheel emperor realm. How had it become the early stage of the ultimate seven-wheel emperor realm? In the heart of darkness, Zhuowen has broken through again. After calming down, Luo Xing finally found the most reasonable explanation. However, although this explanation was the most reasonable, Luo Xing still felt that it was somewhat inconceivable. It had only been 3 months since they had entered the heart of darkness. In such a short period of time, Zhuowen's cultivation had actually broken through. This speed was a little too fast. On the other side of the square, Huangfu Wuji and Grant Lily, who had been watching, both frowned at the same time. Zhuowen's display of strength at the ultimate seven-will emperor realm had also surprised the two of them. No noise or fighting is allowed in front of the throne room. The two of you immediately follow the team and leave this place. A loud shout suddenly came from the front. The commander of the Imperial Guards, Li Jin, was dressed in silver armor. He rode a large horse and quickly arrived between Zhuowen and Feng Yong. His face was filled with indifference. Feng Yong glanced at Li Jin with some fear, then looked coldly at Zhuowen again. He said, "Count yourself lucky this time. When the ranking battle begins, your luck will not be as good as it is now. You should be the one with good luck. Otherwise, if you, Feng Yong, lose to me, your reputation will definitely be ruined. At that time, you won't be able to lift your head up anymore." Zhuowen retorted sarcastically. "Nonsense. You're full of nonsense. Although you're also an ultimate seven-will emperor realm practitioner, you're only at the early stage. So what if you've grasped spear intent? The difference between your cultivation and mine is too great. When the ranking battle begins, I want you to kneel and beg for mercy." Feng Yong fiercely threw down these harsh words, then left the square with the members of the Feng family. Since the commander of the Imperial Guards, Li Jin, had appeared, the two naturally could not fight. Chapter 714. Forbidden Area. As soon as Li Jin's words left his mouth, the people who were watching the show all dispersed and left the imperial city. When the Grand Family's group passed by Zhuowen, they suddenly stopped. At the front of the group, Grand Lily stared at Zhuowen with a cold expression and opened her red lips. "Zhuowen, you were lucky in the peach blossom origin diagram to escape with your life. However, your fate will not change after the ranking battle begins." After saying this, Grand Lily followed Grand Haohai and left the imperial city, no longer paying attention to Zhuowen. Or rather, Zhuowen was not worth her attention. Although Zhuowen's cultivation had broken through to the ultimate seven-will emperor stage, in Grand Lily's eyes, it was still not enough. Zhuowen narrowed his eyes as he watched Grand Lily leave. His eyes were filled with coldness. This woman was arrogant and looked down on everyone. Zhuowen hated such an attitude. In addition, Grand Lily had chased after him in the heart of darkness, causing him to be forced to fall off a cliff and narrowly escape death. Zhuowen would not let this matter rest so easily. "Zhuowen, looks like you have quite a number of enemies. You have offended Feng Yong and Grand Lily." A rather mocking voice suddenly came from the front. Zhuowen turned his head and saw Guosheng, who was carrying a large saber on his back, walking towards him with a mischievous smile. Guosheng was beside an old man who also carried a large saber on his back. This old man's eyes flashed like an eagle, extremely frightening. He was the extremely famous Heavenly Sovereign Tyrannical Blade in the Imperial City. This Heavenly Sovereign Tyrannical Blade was extremely strong. His cultivation was slightly weaker than Lu Hantian's, but he was also a terrifying expert who had comprehended the concept of perfection. If Heavenly Sovereign Tyrannical Blade and Lu Hantian really fought, it would be hard to predict who would win. At the very least, Lu Hantian would not be able to do anything to Heavenly Sovereign Tyrannical Blade. Guosheng. Looking at the grinning youth with a large saber walking over, Zhuowen's lips curled into a smile. This Guosheng was a martial arts maniac. When he first saw that Zhuowen had grasped spear intent, he had insisted on exchanging pointers with him. It was during that spar that Zhuowen's spear intent had been successfully perfected. It had directly advanced from elementary spear intent to advanced spear intent. Speaking of which, Zhuowen still had to thank this Guosheng. "You're improving really fast, kid. It's only been a while since we last met, and you've already advanced to the ultimate seven-will emperor realm. You're really a freak." Looking at Zhuowen curiously, Guosheng couldn't help but shake his head and mutter to himself as if he was looking at a rare antique. "Ha! Even if I advance to the ultimate 7-will Emperor realm, I'm still no match for you. Zhuowen said casually as he shrugged. Guo Sheng had a straightforward personality and was rather one-track minded. Compared to those scheming people, Zhuowen had a very good impression of Guo Sheng. Of course. You and I have both grasped the power of concepts, but your cultivation is lower than mine, so it's normal for you to not be my match. To tell you the truth, this time I came here for the top 5 rankings of the Blue Emperor Proclamation. Guo Sheng wasn't modest at all. He casually patted Zhuowen's shoulder and laughed. However, your strength is also quite good. You should be able to deal with that Feng Yong. Seeing Guo Sheng's rascally appearance, Zhuowen helplessly shook his head. However, Guo Sheng was truly strong. Although his cultivation was the same as Huangfu Wuji and Feng Yong's, the saber intent that he had grasped far surpassed theirs. There was a high chance that he could enter the top 5 rankings. Brother Lu. Your Muqin County's Zhuowen is quite a good seedling. He'll definitely enter the top 10 rankings of the Blue Emperor Proclamation, haha. Empyrean Tyrant Blade laughed as he stroked his beard. Of course. This little boy Zhuowen is my brother. If my brother isn't fierce, then who is fierce? Lu Hantian wasn't modest at all as he accepted Empyrean Tyrant Blade's praise. His rascally appearance was even better than Guo Sheng's. Empyrean Tyrant Blade didn't know how to respond, and could only awkwardly smile. Zhuowen. I wish you good luck. I look forward to your performance in the ranking tournament 3 months from now. I'll be leaving first. After exchanging some pleasantries, Guo Sheng cupped his hands towards Zhuowen and the others, and then followed Empyrean Tyrant Blade out of the Imperial City. Let's go. At this moment, besides the geniuses of the Imperial family, everyone else had already left. Lu Hantian and the others didn't stay any longer, and also left the Imperial City. On the steps in front of the throne room, Huangfu Wuji and Huangfu Wuji stood side by side, their eyes fixed on the departing Muqin County group. That's Zhuowen. His strength is quite good, and it's said that this boy has grasped spear intent. Second brother, are you confident that you can deal with him? Huangfu Wudao held his hands behind his back, his face filled with an unfathomable expression. When one's strength reached Huangfu Wudao's level, he basically didn't place other geniuses in his eyes. Although Zhuowen's strength was good, Huangfu Wudao simply didn't place him in his eyes. If it weren't for the grudges between Huangfu Wuji and Zhuowen, Huangfu Wudao wouldn't even pay attention to such a minor character like Zhuowen. Huangfu Wudao was very confident, even to the point of conceit. He didn't even place the second-ranked Murong Zhan in his eyes. The only thing he cared about was entering the Divine Academy. He wanted to become even stronger, because only the strong could control everything. This time, I must break through to the 8-will Emperor realm. As he spoke, Huangfu Wuji directly stepped into the throne room behind him and quickly disappeared. Excellent Divine Academy. Huangfu Wudao didn't move. He only quietly stood on the steps. He slightly raised his head and muttered to himself, a sharp light flashing in his eyes. At night, the sky was filled with stars. The imperial capital was brightly lit. Within a pavilion of the intoxicating spring pavilion, Zhuowen sat cross-legged on a prayer mat. He flicked his finger and a ball of light several feet wide appeared in his hand. This was the nascent soul that he had obtained from the underground river. When Zhuowen had absorbed half of the nascent soul's energy, he had smoothly broken through to the 7-will Emperor realm. Thus, the nascent soul hadn't been completely used up. The remaining half of the nascent soul is extremely rich in energy for you. If you want to completely absorb it, it should take about a month. At that time, your cultivation will at least reach the late stage of the 7-will Emperor realm. Just as Zhuowen was staring at the nascent soul in his hand, Xiao Hei's voice rang out in Zhuowen's mind. If I can reach the late stage of the 7-will Emperor realm and have a higher level of spear intent, then Feng Yong won't be my opponent. Zhuowen nodded and said. Kid. Quickly put away the nascent soul. Someone is rushing towards your room. This person's strength is terrifying. Suddenly, Xiao Hei's voice in his mind became urgent and even a little fearful. Zhuo Wen's eyes trembled. To be able to make Xiao Hei so flustered, this person must be terrifying. He quickly put away the nascent soul and unconsciously took out the tyrannical dragon scale bone spear. He cautiously looked around. Who is it? Don't be sneaky, come out quickly. Zhuo Wen shouted in a probing manner. Sure enough, as soon as he said this, a surprised voice came from the roof of the room. Kid, your 5 senses are quite sharp. You can actually detect my presence. Zhuowen was shocked and quickly raised his head. Suddenly, he saw a figure on the beam of the roof. This person was somewhat stooped and wore a bronze mask. He looked extremely strange. It's you. Zhuowen recognized this person. He was the guard of the Burning Heaven sect's saintess, Mu Shui. His strength was unfathomable, and Zhuowen couldn't see through him. However, Zhuowen was a little puzzled. Why did this person come looking for him? He didn't seem to know Mu Shui. This old man is just giving you something on behalf of my young miss, Qiu Lao said indifferently. With a flick of his finger, a ray of light shot out from his fingertip and drilled into Zhuowen's palm. Zhuowen looked at it and saw a 7-colored crystal quietly lying in his palm. It emitted a strange 7-colored light. Whoosh! After handing over the 7-colored crystal, Elder Qiu glanced at Zhuo Wen indifferently before disappearing from the room. Chapter 7:15. The Chase. This is a Rainbow Soul Essence Stone. Just as Zhuowen was wondering about the Rainbow Soul Essence Stone in his hand, Xiao Hei's shocked voice rang out in his mind. Whoosh! A wisp of black light shot out from between Zhuowen's eyebrows and turned into Xiao Hei. Xiao Hei stood on Zhuowen's palm and carefully examined the Rainbow Soul Essence Stone in his palm. Zhuowen did not disturb Xiao Hei. From Xiao Hei's behavior, Xiao Hei probably had some understanding of the Rainbow Soul Essence Stone. It is indeed a Rainbow Soul Essence Stone. Xiao Hei sat on Zhuowen's shoulder. Her dark little face was filled with surprise. Xiao Hei, what is a Rainbow Soul Essence Stone? Zhuowen asked curiously. Kid. You really picked up a treasure this time. This Rainbow Soul Essence Stone is good stuff. It is said that the Rainbow Soul Essence Stone is a strange stone that fell from the sky when the Heavenly Armor Continent was created. This kind of stone was not very rare in the ancient times. However, as time passed, the number of 7-colored Essence Soul Stones became fewer and fewer. Even in the ancient times, the 7-colored Essence Soul Stone almost never appeared. After hearing Xiao Hei's words, Zhuowen also knew that the Rainbow Soul Essence Stone was extremely rare. However, what puzzled him was the specific function of the Rainbow Soul Essence Stone. Perhaps it was because she saw the puzzled look on Zhuowen's face. Xiao Hei chuckled and said, the Rainbow Soul Essence Stone contains extremely rich essence energy. This essence energy is extremely beneficial to the spirit of a cultivator. To martial practitioners, the 7-colored Soul Essence Stone only strengthens their spirit, energy, and soul. But to Arcana Masters, the essence of the 7-colored Soul Essence Stone can allow your mental power to break through a major level in a short amount of time. It can be said that it is a treasure in the eyes of an arcanist. At this point, Xiao Hei's eyes revealed a trace of blazing light. Break through a large level. This can't be true, right? Hearing this, Zhuowen's pupils shrank and his face was filled with shock. Xiao Hei was talking about a large level, not a small level. In other words, Zhuowen's mind power had already reached the level of 4th grade great completion. However, if he absorbed all the essence energy of the Rainbow Soul Essence Stone, his mind power could directly break through to 5th grade completion. This was directly jumping a large level. No wonder Blackie said that the 7-colored Soul Stone was a precious treasure to Arcana Masters. It could actually help arcana masters break through a major realm. The cultivation of the mind was far more difficult than the cultivation of martial arts. Every high-grade arcana master was over 50 years old, and some of them even had white hair. Young high-grade arcana masters were very rare. Zhuo Wen's mind power had reached the complete 4th grade at his age, which was already extremely heaven-defying. If he relied on the 7-colored soul essence stone to directly break through to the complete 5th grade, it would definitely shock countless people. This rainbow soul essence stone is actually so precious. After listening to Xiao Hei's introduction, Zhuowen also realized how precious this rainbow soul essence stone was. The Saintess of the Burning Heaven sect actually gave such a precious treasure to him. This made Zhuowen somewhat puzzled. Boy! It seems that the Saintess of the Burning Heaven sect is interested in you. Otherwise, she would not give this rainbow soul essence stone to you, hee. At this moment, Xiao Hei stared at Zhuowen with a mischievous look. Zhuowen could not wait to give this guy a slap. The Saintess of the Burning Heaven sect is called Mu Shui, also surnamed Mu. Mu Qinshue's surname is also Mu. The two must have some relationship. Perhaps Mu Qinshue asked Mu Shui to give this to me? At this point, Zhuowen's heart moved, and he became more and more certain that this Mu Shui and Mu Qinshue had an unusual relationship. What you said makes sense. I'm afraid that Mu Shui and Mu Qinshue's relationship is not simple. Maybe this Mu Shui is Mu Qinshue's alias, or maybe this Mu Shui is Mu Qinshue. Xiao Hei stroked his chin and said casually. Creak. Zhuowen's pupils shrank, and his fists involuntarily clenched. It was as if 1,000 waves had been stirred up in his heart, and he was extremely uneasy. And in Zhuowen's mind, the gaze that Mu Shui looked at him with appeared many times. That gaze was familiar, and that Mu Shui had a different attitude towards him time and time again. Mu Shui is Mu Qinshue. Hurriedly putting away the rainbow soul essence stone, Zhuowen suddenly pushed open the door and stepped out of the room. Boy! Where are you going? Seeing Zhuowen's anxious appearance, Xiao Hei asked in surprise. To find big brother Han Tian. Why are you looking for that old beggar? Let him bring me to the imperial city. I want to see Mu Shui. Zhuowen answered Zhuowen's question as he ran. Mu Shui was in the imperial city, and the imperial city was heavily guarded. It was impossible to enter the imperial city without permission. Zhuowen knew that only Lu Hantian had the qualifications to enter the imperial city. Not only was Lu Hantian powerful, but the Azure Emperor also valued Lu Hantian greatly. If Lu Hantian brought him into the imperial city, the Azure Emperor would not blame him. In the imperial city, in a rather luxurious pavilion, a graceful woman wearing a light veil stood quietly in front of the window. Her beautiful eyes were like the starry sky as she quietly looked at the starry night sky. Whoosh! A figure cut through the void and instantly landed behind the veiled woman. This person wore a bronze mask and respectfully knelt on one knee behind the woman. Elder Qiu. Has the 7-colored soul essence stone been delivered? Mu Shui's beautiful eyes flashed as she softly asked. It has been delivered to Zhuowen. But miss, that 7-colored soul essence stone is a treasure that can suppress the cold poison in your body. If you give it to Zhuowen like this, what will happen to you? Elder Qiu frowned and said with a trembling voice. With my current cultivation, I can suppress the cold poison for half a year. If I can find the heavenly fire within half a year, I can cure the cold poison. There's no hurry. Mu Shui lightly said. Miss. It's not like you don't know how rare the heavenly fire is. If it was in ancient times, it might be possible to find the heavenly fire, but the chances are too slim now. If you can't cure the cold poison, you'll die. Elder Qiu's body began to tremble. He knew how terrifying the cold poison in Mu Shui's body was. If she wasn't careful, it could be fatal. The 7-colored soul essence stone was personally given to Mu Shui by the sect master of the Burning Heaven sect to suppress the cold poison in her body. With the 7-colored soul essence stone's suppressive effect, the cold poison would only act up after 10 years. But now, Mu Shui actually directly gave the 7-colored soul essence stone to Zhuowen. Without a doubt, she was handing her life over to Zhuowen. Within half a year, the cold poison would definitely act up. At that time, everything would be too late. Is it worth it for this Zhuowen? Looking at Mu Shui's indifferent eyes, Elder Qiu's heart seemed to be dripping blood. The miss in front of him, who had always been as cold as ice, was actually making such a sacrifice for a man today. Elder Qiu's heart was indescribably complicated. It's worth it. The 7-colored soul essence stone can only suppress the cold poison for 10 years. Elder Qiu, didn't you say it before? Now that the heavenly fire is almost nowhere to be found, do you think you can find it in 10 years? In the end, my ending will be the same. I'm just bringing this ending forward. Mu Shui's voice was still calm, so calm that it was frightening. Elder Qiu was silent. He did not know what to say now. He could only look sadly at the beautiful lady in front of him. With the 7-colored soul essence stone, Zhuowen's mental strength can be raised to rank 5 great perfection. In addition to the infinite sword formation on him, Zhuowen will have no problem entering the top 5 of the Green Emperor board. At this point, Mu Shui stretched out her slender hand. On her flawless wrist was a string of bells. As she waved her hand gently, the bells let out a crisp sound. Whoosh! A fiery red shadow suddenly flew over from the sky and stopped at the window. It was actually a vermilion bird. Elder Qiu. We should also leave. Mu Shui said plainly. Sigh. Elder Qiu shook his head helplessly and could only step onto the vermilion bird. Following which, a sharp bird cry sounded. The vermilion bird was like a small sun. It suddenly rose up, intending to leave the imperial city. In the throne room, the Green Emperor, who was sitting alone in the middle of the room, raised his head as if he sensed something. His deep gaze penetrated the roof as if he could see the scene outside. Mu Shui and Qiu Yan are leaving. The Green Emperor muttered to himself. Until now, he still did not know why Mu Shui and Qiu Yan had come to the Qing Xian Empire. In his opinion, their appearance was somewhat strange. At this moment, outside the imperial city, 2 figures were rushing towards the imperial city. One of them was young and had a delicate face. He carried a strange green coffin on his back. The other person was dirty. His clothes were ragged and his hair was greasy. He looked like an old beggar. The 2 of them were naturally Zhuowen and Lu Hantian, who were rushing towards the imperial city. Zhuowen found Lu Hantian and dragged Lu Hantian to the imperial city without any explanation. This made Lu Hantian a little confused. A high-pitched bird cry suddenly sounded from the imperial city. Following which, the vermilion bird, which was like a small sun, suddenly spread its wings and flew out of the imperial city. Its speed was extremely fast. Vermilion bird? Big brother Hantian, quickly bring me to catch up to that vermilion bird. Looking at the vermilion bird that was gradually flying away, Zhuowen was rather anxious. That's the mount of the Saintess of the Burning Heaven sect. Kid, are you planning to chase after the Saintess of the Burning Heaven sect? Your ambition is really great. Lu Hantian also recognized the identity of the vermilion bird. He could not help but give Zhuowen a thumbs up and smile wretchedly. Zhuowen did not care about Lu Hantian's thoughts at this moment. He hurriedly said, Big brother Hantian. Quickly bring me to catch up. Otherwise, it will really be too late. Since it's a girl that brother has taken a fancy to, I will help you no matter what. Kid, you have to suffer first. Lu Hantian did not waste any time. He directly lifted Zhuowen by the back of his collar and stepped on the ground. His speed soared to the extreme, and in an instant, he swept towards the vermilion bird that was gradually flying away. Towards the way Lu Hantian carried him, Zhuowen could not help but madly roll his eyes. This posture was too sullen. However, Zhuowen also knew that if he did not want to hinder Lu Hantian's journey, this was the best way. Therefore, he could only put down the discomfort in his heart and let Lu Hantian carry him. Lu Hantian frowned. The vermilion bird's speed had exceeded his expectations. It had reached such a terrifying level. Lu Hantian had used his full strength, but the vermilion bird had still widened the distance between them. Is there no other way? Zhuowen gritted his teeth. He was unwilling to give up. There is no other way. The vermilion bird is too fast. Moreover, I do not have an advantage in speed. It will be very difficult to catch up to the vermilion bird. Lu Hantian shook his head and said helplessly. Hearing this, Zhuowen's eyes revealed a trace of disappointment. He also didn't expect that with Lu Hantian's cultivation, he wouldn't be able to catch up to the vermilion bird. It seemed that he wouldn't be able to ask about Mu Qinshui now. The vermilion bird in front has slowed down. Lu Hantian suddenly exclaimed. His eyes lit up. Zhuowen looked over and was pleasantly surprised to find that the vermilion bird in front was indeed as Lu Hantian had said. Its speed had slowed down. Quickly catch up. Zhuowen said anxiously. Someone is coming towards us. This person is very strong. At this moment, Lu Hantian's face was extremely solemn. He was much stronger than Zhuowen. At a glance, he saw that the man with the bronze mask who was originally standing quietly on the back of the vermilion bird was rushing towards them in an aggressive manner. Swoosh! The sound of something breaking through the air suddenly rang out, and the figure instantly arrived within 10 miles of the two. Zhuowen finally noticed the figure that was rushing over, but when his gaze converged on the figure, he could not help but reveal a stunned expression. The person in front of him was a little stooped. He was wearing a bronze mask and had a vast aura. It was the mysterious person who had given him the 7-colored soul essence stone. Zhuowen. Hand over the 7-colored soul essence stone and die. At this moment, Elder Qiu's eyes were filled with rage. It was all because of this brat in front of him. Miss was willing to give up her life for this brat. This brat was unforgivable. As long as this Zhuowen dies, Miss will slowly forget about this brat. It doesn't matter even if Miss resents me. The killing intent in Elder Qiu's eyes intensified. The only way for Miss to accept the 7-colored soul essence stone again was to completely eliminate Zhuowen. Zhuowen's face went grim when he saw Elder Qiu, who flashed over with surging killing intent. He'd never imagined that this mysterious person before him that he'd never met would actually suddenly turn around and kill him, and it caused Zhuowen to feel slightly bewildered. You're not qualified to kill my brother. Lu Hantian snorted coldly. He let go of Zhuowen and stood in front of Zhuowen. He stomped his foot, and the blood spear under his feet became extremely thick. It broke through the void and shot towards Elder Qiu. You're only a heavenly venerate. You're not my opponent. Get lost if you don't want to die. Elder Qiu snorted coldly. He extended his right claw, and a terrifying power poured out. The surrounding space collapsed layer by layer, and the huge blood spear directly collapsed, turning into a rain of blood. An Emperor Realm powerhouse. Looking at the blood spear that was easily broken, Lu Hantian took Zhuowen and retreated. His pupils shrank as he stared at old Qiu and exclaimed. Since you know, then get the hell out of here. I won't kill you, but you must hand over the brat behind you to me, Elder Qiu snorted coldly. You want Zhuowen? Lu Hantian narrowed his eyes and continued coldly, so what if you're an Emperor Realm powerhouse? You want to snatch Zhuowen from me? No way. You want to do this the hard way. Get lost. Elder Qiu didn't waste any more time talking nonsense. His withered, twig-like right hand reached out again. Suddenly, the surrounding space for dozens of miles shattered like broken glass. From the shattered space, countless similar claws reached out and swept towards Lu Hantian. Lu Hantian's expression changed slightly. He stomped his foot again, and countless blood qi surged out from his body, forming countless blood spear shadows around him. With him as the center, it turned into a huge blood spear domain. Boom! 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 Countless claws arrived in an instant and collided with Lu Hantian's blood spear domain. Immediately, earth-shattering explosions resounded. A candle dares to compete with the sun and moon? Elder Chiu snorted coldly and clenched his right claw. Immediately, a crisp cracking sound rang out. Then, Lu Hantian, who was in the blood spear domain, was shocked to find that the countless spear shadows around him collapsed like tofu. Puchi! Lu Hantian spat out a mouthful of blood. His face was filled with shock and anger as he flew backwards. Although Lu Hantian was at the peak of the heavenly venerate realm and had grasped the greater perfection spear intent, Elder Chiu was a genuine emperor realm expert. The difference in strength between the two was too great. Zhuoan! Run! Lu Hantian suddenly shouted the moment he was injured. His voice was like thunder. Zhuoan, who was originally shocked by the battle between Lu Hantian and Elder Chiu, couldn't help but tremble when he heard Lu Hantian's shout. Then, he clearly sensed a sinister gaze on him. An unprecedented sense of danger exploded in Zhuoan's heart. Especially when he saw Elder Chiu's cold gaze, Zhuoan couldn't summon the slightest bit of resistance. This person is too terrifying. I have to run, or I'll definitely die. Without hesitation, Zhuoan unfurled 3 pairs of lightning wings and summoned the infinitesimal sword formation at the same time. He even executed the nirvana of the great sun. After putting up a strong defense, he stomped his foot and disappeared from the spot. Run! With your strength, do you really think you can escape from my palm? Elder Chiu sneered. He blended into the silent night like a shadow and instantly disappeared. At the same time, Mu Shui, who was standing on a green lotus, also arrived. She happened to see Zhuoan fleeing miserably and Elder Chiu chasing after him. Her pretty face was filled with worry. Elder Chiu, this fellow, gritting her teeth, Mu Shui stomped her foot and quickly followed Zhuoan and Elder Chiu. She definitely couldn't let Elder Chiu kill Zhuoan. Damn it! Damn it! Why did this fellow suddenly go crazy and want to kill me? I clearly didn't offend him. At this moment, Zhuoan was running for his life in a panic. However, his heart was burning with anger. He didn't know what was wrong with Elder Chiu. He actually wanted to take back the 7-color soul essence stone and wanted his life. Kid! This old man is too powerful. He's a terrifying second heaven emperor. No matter how you run, you won't be able to escape from him. Xiao Hei's voice slowly rang in his mind. Xiao Hei, what should we do now? Zhuoan was in a mess and could only ask Xiao Hei for help. I have no choice. This old man's strength is too terrifying. The gap between you two is too big. I really have no way to make him let you go. Xiao Hei replied helplessly. Kid, quickly dodge. That old man's attack is behind you. Suddenly, Xiao Hei exclaimed. Zhuoan was instantly alerted. He quickly twisted his waist and dodged to the side. Swoosh! A terrifying attack swept past Zhuoan's side. It tore through the air and shattered the surrounding space into countless black holes. Puff! A strong wind spread out and coincidentally hit Zhuoan's chest. Zhuoan spat out a mouthful of blood and fell down powerlessly like a butterfly. Boom! He crashed onto the ground and a huge crater was formed. Zhuoan was in the crater and blood flowed out from the corner of his mouth. His aura was extremely weak. Zhuoan, die. Chapter 717. Dark cold poison, it's over. Zhuowen's face turned pale as he looked at the terrifying palm print falling from the sky. Despair filled his eyes. This was an attack from an Emperor Realm expert. Although it wasn't Elder Chio's full-strength attack, it wasn't something that Zhuowen could handle. The terrifying aura poured down and forced Zhuowen to kneel on one knee. Blood flowed from the corner of his mouth and he looked miserable. Zhuowen found it hard to withstand the aura alone. It was too terrifying. Swoosh! Just as the palm print was about to hit the ground, a green light shot out from behind and landed in front of Zhuowen. The green light shot out and formed a green lotus that was a few hundred feet tall. Boom! The palm print arrived in an instant and blasted on the green lotus. Instantly, a terrifying explosion resounded. Ring-shaped waves of air rose up in the void, layer by layer. The green lotus was extremely tough and it managed to withstand the attack of the terrifying palm print. At the same time, a beautiful figure stood in front of Zhuowen, who was kneeling on one knee. She stared coldly at Elder Chio. This person was Mu Shui, who had rushed over from behind. Mu Shui was trying her best to control the green lotus in the air to block the powerful palm print. Her face was ghastly pale and a trace of blood flowed from the corner of her lips. Miss! Elder Chio's face changed. He didn't expect Mu Shui to block the attack for Zhuowen. He waved his right hand and the terrifying palm print in the air disappeared. Elder Chio stomped on the ground and landed in front of Mu Shui. His face was filled with worry. Swoosh! At the same time, Lu Hantian, who had been pushed back by Elder Chio, stepped on a blood-red spear and arrived beside Zhuowen. He stared at Elder Chio with fear in his eyes. The strength of the man in the bronze mask in front of him was unfathomable. He was a genuine sovereign realm cultivator. Even Lu Hantian could not do anything to such a cultivator. Zhuowen! Are you alright? Lu Hantian looked worriedly at Zhuowen. Zhuowen shook his head and stood up. He stared at the beautiful figure in front of him with a complicated expression. This woman was actually willing to take on the Elder's attack for him. That was an Imperial Realm cultivator. If she was not careful, she would be in danger of dying. Zhuowen knew that other than Mu Qinshui, no other woman would stand up for him. You are Mu Qinshui. Zhuowen suddenly took a step forward. His gaze was firmly fixed on Mu Qinshui's figure. His voice was clear and firm. He was increasingly certain that this Mu Qinshui in front of him was Mu Qinshui. After he said this, Mu Qinshui, who had her back to him, trembled. She shook her head and said, "You've got the wrong person. I'm Mu Qinshui, not Mu Qinshui. You are Mu Qinshui." Zhuowen took another step forward. His gaze was still fixed on Mu Qinshui. His voice became even more resounding. As the saintess of the Burning Heaven sect, I can see that your attitude towards me is different from others. You've even reminded me many times. And this 7-colored essence stone, such a precious item, you're willing to give it to me. If you're not Mu Qinshui, then we're not related. Why are you treating me like this? You're even willing to give me the 7-colored essence stone. Taking another step forward, Zhuowen's voice became even more certain. His tone became a little shaky, and his lips trembled. He did not expect this Mu Qinshui in front of him to be the Mu Qinshui that he had been yearning for day and night. Why did she cover herself with a veil? Why did she not dare to meet him? These questions instantly appeared in Zhuowen's mind. However, he overturned them one by one. He was certain that this Mu Qinshui in front of him was Mu Qinshui. Mu Shui was silent. She did not speak, but her slightly trembling shoulders completely exposed the emotions in her heart at this moment. Zhuowen, don't go over. Lu Hantian naturally did not know Mu Qinshui. It seemed that Zhuowen knew this Burning Heaven sect saintess. However, Elder Chio was still by Mu Qinshui's side. Lu Hantian was worried that Zhuowen would walk right into a trap if he went over. At this moment, Zhuowen had already completely ignored Lu Hantian and Qiu Yan. In his eyes, there was only the beautiful figure in front of him. This was because the woman in front of him was Mu Qinxue, the love that he had been yearning for day and night. Mu Qinxue, this time, I won't let you leave me again because you're my woman. With that, Zhuowen took another step forward. His eyes were filled with unswerving determination. Last time, Zhuowen knew that his cultivation was insufficient, so he did not have the qualifications to make Mu Qinxue stay. But now, although he knew that the gap between him and Mu Qinxue was still huge, it was not as huge as it was in the ancient cave mansion. This time, Zhuowen would not allow Mu Qinxue to leave his sight. How dare you? How dare you speak to my young miss like that? When Zhuowen said that Mu Qinxue was him, Elder Qiu could not stand it anymore. He roared and a terrifying aura gushed out. Puchi! Zhuowen's chest felt stuffy and he spat out a mouthful of blood. However, he did not retreat. His gaze was still fixed on Mu Qinxue with unswerving determination. No matter how great your background is, and no matter how insignificant I, Zhuowen, am now, I, Zhuowen, have promised you in the past. I, Zhuowen, have sworn to the heavens that I, Zhuowen, will take you as my wife. Boom! Zhuowen roared and the green coffin on his back opened by half. A pair of strange blood-red eyes appeared in the gap of the green coffin. A terrifying pressure came out and faintly resisted Elder Qiu's aura. Dang! 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 Zhuowen walked forward slowly like an old bull pulling a cart. His gaze was fixed on Mu Qinxue and his face was filled with unswerving determination. Seeing Zhuowen's actions, Elder Qiu had a complicated expression on his face. However, he did not make a move. Instead, he silently watched as Zhuowen walked towards Mu Qinxue. Finally, Zhuowen arrived in front of Mu Qinxue. He raised his head and his clear eyes stared at the veiled lady in front of him. He saw a pair of eyes that were as beautiful as the starry sky and the sparkling tear stains at the bottom of her eyes. The veil gradually faded and a peerless face slowly appeared in front of Zhuowen. Zhuowen smiled. Wasn't this beautiful lady in front of him the Mu Qinxue that he yearned for day and night? Zhuowen slowly extended his hand and gently wiped away the tear stains on Mu Qinxue's face. He smiled gently and said, I'm sorry. I was a blockhead and realized it too late. Do you blame me? However, the instant Zhuowen's palm came into contact with Mu Qinxue's face, he felt an extremely frightening chill. Soon after, he discovered that his palm was covered in a layer of frost. A bone-chilling cold spread from his hand to his entire body. Zhuowen couldn't help but tremble. So cold. This was the only feeling Zhuowen had right now. At this moment, he also realized that something was wrong with Mu Qinxue. Mu Qinxue stood motionless in her original position. Her face was as pale as snow and the tear stains on her cheeks had unknowingly turned into two hard lines of ice. Miss. Elder Qiu also realized that something was wrong. He took a step forward and pressed his right hand on Mu Qinxue's hand. He also felt a bone-chilling cold. Damn it! The frost poison is acting up. Elder Qiu's face was extremely ugly. He formed two fingers on his right hand into a sword and fiercely pointed at Mu Qinxue's forehead. Waves of powerful energy flowed from Elder Qiu's body into Mu Qinxue's body. Frost poison. Zhuowen took a few steps back to make room for Elder Qiu. His eyes were filled with shock. This was the first time he had heard of this frost poison. Kid. The frost poison in Mu Qinxue's body is incredible. If I'm not wrong, it's probably the dark frost poison. This frost poison is the technique of the divine beast Black Tortoise. It's extremely terrifying and difficult to deal with. It belongs to the heaven rank frost energy. Xiao Hei's voice suddenly sounded in Zhuowen's mind. Her voice was filled with shock. Clearly, the dark frost poison was extremely terrifying. Even Xiao Hei felt that it was difficult to deal with. What? Heaven rank frost energy? Zhuo Wen's eyes narrowed when he heard that. He did not expect that Mu Qinshue's body was actually hiding a heaven rank frost energy like the dark frost poison. This was a terrifying energy comparable to the heaven flame. Ordinary people would definitely die if they touched it. I finally know that the old man wearing the bronze mask is determined to kill you. The 7-colored soul essence stone in your body has a miraculous effect in suppressing the dark frost poison. Originally, with the 7-colored soul essence stone, this Mu Qinshui should be able to suppress the frost poison for 10 years. Now that I've given it to you, it won't be able to suppress it for long. At most, it can only last for half a year. Moreover, this is because this Mu Qinshui used her cultivation to suppress it. But just now, she blocked that old man's attack for you and suffered serious injuries. She can no longer suppress the dark frost poison in her body, so she fell into such a situation. At this point, Xiao Hei said with a complicated expression, "This woman's feelings for you are really deep. She actually went to such an extent for you. I'm afraid it's because she wants you to enter the top 5 of the Azure Emperor leaderboard." Hearing that, Zhuo Wen's mind exploded like thunder. He could not help but take a few steps back. His face was filled with shock. He also did not expect that Mu Qinshui would actually make such a sacrifice for him. He simply did not expect this. Then, if I give the 7-colored soul essence stone back to Mu Qinshui, will it be able to suppress the dark frost poison again? Zhuo Wen quickly asked, perhaps because he had grasped onto a life-saving straw. The 7-colored soul essence stone can only suppress it. Now that the dark frost poison has erupted, it is just like a useless stone to Mu Qinshui. Xiao Hei shook her head. Zhuo Wen took a few steps back again. His face was extremely pale as he muttered to himself, "Is there no other way?" Looking at Mu Qinshui, who had lost consciousness because of the dark frost poison, Zhuo Wen's heart slowly sank. A knife-like pain slowly rose in Zhuo Wen's heart. His heart was in so much pain that he wanted to howl at the sky. It was so painful that it tore his heart and lungs apart. "Kid! Don't be rash. There is another way." Sensing that Zhuo Wen's mood was not right, Xiao Hei quickly said. Hearing Xiao Hei's words, Zhuo Wen finally calmed down. He quickly asked, "What is it? Tell me quickly." "You have 7 types of earth fire in your body. Moreover, you also have the unique secret spirit skill, the flame fusion art. As long as you can gather 9 types of earth fire and use the flame fusion art, you will be able to fuse the legendary heavenly fire. The dark frost poison is a heavenly cold qi. If you can fuse the heavenly fire, you will be able to completely remove the dark frost poison in Mu Qinshui's body." Xiao Hei suddenly said. "You also saw that I only have 7 types of earth fire in my body. I am still 2 types away from 9. Moreover, Mu Qinshui's condition is not good. It is too late now." Zhuo Wen said with a bitter smile. Chapter 718. Suppressing the cold poison. When Xiao Hei said that, Zhuo Wen's eyes lit up like the brightest star in the night sky. Xiao Hei was right. The fire fusion art was a powerful secret spirit technique created to create heavenly fire. By gathering 9 types of earth fire, one would be able to fuse heavenly fire. Zhuo Wen now had 7 types of earth fire in his body and could fuse them to create the terrifying 7-colored phoenix. Although the 7-colored phoenix was not considered a heavenly fire, it was formed from 7 types of earth fire. Therefore, it was much more powerful than earth fire. It was a terrifying flame that was between earth fire and heavenly fire. Although the dark cold poison was a heaven-grade cold qi, the dark cold poison that remained in Mu Qinshui's body was only a small part of it. It was not the complete source of the dark cold poison. The 7-colored phoenix was enough to suppress the dark cold poison in Mu Qinshui's body. The 7-colored phoenix is much more powerful than ordinary earth fire. Will it harm Mu Qinshui? Zhuowen asked worriedly. Don't worry. Leave everything to me. I can still control the 7-colored phoenix to suppress the dark cold poison in Mu Qinshue's body. However, I will need your help, Xiao He said calmly. Hearing this, Zhuowen's lips curled into a smile. He knew that since Xiao He had said so, then the chances of suppressing the dark cold poison were extremely high. At this moment, Elder Qiu slowly retracted his hand. Mu Qinshue's face was much rosier now. However, she had fainted and collapsed on Elder Qiu's arm. Elder Qiu's expression was extremely ugly. Originally, the dark cold poison in Mu Qinshue's body should have erupted half a year later. However, due to her severe injuries, she was unable to suppress them and the dark cold poison finally erupted. At this moment, Elder Qiu's heart was filled with regret. If he had known this would happen, he would not have lost his mind and attacked Zhuowen. Now that Mu Qinshu was in such a state, he was also responsible for it. How is Mu Qinshu? Seeing that Mu Qinshue's complexion had become rosier, Zhuowen hurriedly stepped forward with a hint of joy on his face. As expected of an Emperor realm expert, Qiu Yan was able to suppress the dark cold poison that erupted from Mu Qinshue's body. It's all because of you. You've caused my young miss to become like this, and you can still laugh. Elder Qiu abruptly turned his head as a burst of energy shot out and smashed into Zhuowen's chest. Zhuowen let out a muffled groan as he retreated dozens of steps and spat out a mouthful of blood. If it wasn't for you, how could young miss have become like this? Let me tell you. The dark cold poison in young miss' body is extremely terrifying. Even this old man can only suppress it for half a day. After half a day, the dark cold poison will erupt here. At that time, young miss' life will be in danger. It's all because of you. If it weren't for you, the young miss wouldn't have died. Today, I will definitely kill you. As he spoke, Elder Qiu stomped his foot and glared at Zhuowen, intending to directly attack. I have a way to suppress the dark cold poison for a long period of time. Zhuowen ignored Elder Qiu's threat as he quietly stood where he was. His gaze had been fixed on Mu Qinshu the entire time. You can save young miss. Elder Qiu's eyes narrowed as he hurriedly stopped in his tracks. He furrowed his brows and pondered for a moment. The coldness in his eyes became even more intense. If he couldn't suppress the dark cold poison, how could this brat before him do it? You're lying. If even this old man can't do anything, how could you possibly have a way? Young miss has misjudged you. It turns out that you're a coward. As he spoke, Elder Qiu looked at Zhuowen with even more disdain. He didn't believe that Zhuowen had a way to suppress the dark cold poison. He had made up his mind that this brat was definitely lying. The murderous intent in his heart towards Zhuowen became even more intense. Humph. There's no need for me to lie. Seeing that Elder Qiu didn't believe him, Zhuowen knew that he had no proof. Elder Qiu wouldn't believe him. With a stomp of his foot, 7 earth fires instantly shot out from his body and circled around him. Then, Zhuowen formed a seal with both hands and used the fire fusion art. The 7 earth fires instantly merged together. A high-pitched phoenix cry rang out. Then, a 7-colored phoenix shadow appeared in Zhuowen's palm. It quietly opened and closed its wings. It looked extremely intelligent. At the same time, the surrounding temperature rose at a terrifying speed. The surrounding air even seemed to distort under the high temperature. What? 7 earth fires? And they've merged together. Elder Qiu's eyes narrowed as he looked at the 7-colored phoenix in Zhuowen's palm. A trace of disbelief appeared on his face. Although earth fires were rare, it wasn't particularly difficult for an Emperor realm expert like him to see them. However, Zhuowen had 7 earth fires and had even merged them together. He had never heard of or seen such a method before. Moreover, he also realized that the 7-colored phoenix formed by the 7 earth fires contained power that far surpassed that of earth fires. Although it was far from the level of heaven fires, it was much stronger than ordinary earth fires. How did you do it? Elder Chiu couldn't help but ask. Now you should believe me. This fire is called the seven-colored phoenix. Although it's not as powerful as heaven fires, it's much stronger than earth fires. Although it can't extract the dark cold poison like heaven fires, it's more than enough to suppress it. Zhuowen didn't answer Elder Chiu's question. Instead, he looked straight at Elder Chiu as if he was asking for his opinion. After a moment of silence, Elder Chiu said, "Your seven-colored phoenix is indeed powerful. It can suppress the dark cold poison. However, if you want to suppress the dark cold poison, you have to go deep into the young lady's body. You're so young. Can you control the seven-colored phoenix precisely?" Elder Chiu's meaning was clear. The seven-colored phoenix was extremely powerful. If he wasn't careful, he might injure Mu Qinshue's internal organs. If Zhuowen didn't have enough control, Qiu Yan wouldn't be at ease with Zhuowen suppressing the dark cold poison for Mu Qinshue. Do I have a choice now? In half a day, the dark cold poison in Mu Qinshue's body will erupt. Is there any use in worrying about this now? Zhuowen said somewhat angrily. Mu Qinshue's life was already in danger, yet Qiu Yan was still worrying about this and that. How could Zhuowen not be angry? When Qiu Chou heard this, he suddenly realized that Zhuowen was right. He really didn't have a choice now. If he didn't suppress the dark cold poison in Mu Qinshue's body as soon as possible, she would still die in half a day. Right now, it was better to let Zhuowen treat a dead horse as a living horse. Perhaps there would still be a trace of hope. If the young lady dies, you will also be buried with her. You better not have any wishful thinking. Elder Chiu threatened fiercely. Now I know. Can you allow me to get close to Mu Qinshu? Nodding, Zhuowen said coldly. Go. Elder Chiu snorted. Zhuowen slowly walked towards Mu Qinshu. Looking at the beauty in front of him who had fainted, Zhuowen's heart ached. Mu Qinshu had become like this, and he, Zhuowen, couldn't escape responsibility. Why do you have to do this? Gently caressing Mu Qinshue's smooth and cold face, Zhuowen's heart trembled. His eyes were filled with pity. Xiao He. Take a look. Where is the dark cold poison hiding in Mu Qinshue's body? Zhuowen silently instructed Xiao He in his heart as he carefully examined Mu Qinshue's delicate face. Leave it to me. Xiao He responded. Following Zhuowen's right fingertip, with a whoosh, it entered Mu Qinshue's body. Qiu Yan, who was standing behind Zhuowen, frowned. When Zhuowen was caressing Mu Qinshue's face earlier, he felt that there seemed to be another unfamiliar aura in Zhuowen's body. This aura was extremely obscure and gave him a faint feeling of dread. Is it just my imagination? Qiu Yan muttered softly. His gaze was focused on Zhuowen's back. It seemed that the young man in front of him was not as simple as he had imagined. The black gas that Xiao He had transformed into circulated around Mu Qinshue's body once before returning to Zhuowen's body. Xiao He. How is it? Where is the dark cold poison hiding in Mu Qinshue's body? Zhuowen anxiously asked. Xiao He was silent for a moment. Then, its voice became slightly heavy as it said, Kid. It's a little tricky this time. The dark cold poison is actually hiding in this girl's dantian. The seven-colored phoenix is very powerful. If we are not careful, I'm afraid that this girl's dantian may be destroyed. At that time, she may become a cripple. Upon hearing this, Zhuowen's pupils shrank. He did not expect that the dark cold poison would actually be near Mu Qinshue's dantian. The dantian was the foundation of a martial artist. If it was destroyed, it was no different from being a cripple. In this world where the strong were respected, a cripple had no dignity at all. They would only be bullied. Mu Qinshu was extremely talented. Her strength was also far greater than Zhuowen's. She was a rare genius. If she became a cripple because of this, Mu Qinxue would not be able to accept it. Becoming a cripple is better than dying. Besides, didn't you say that it's possible? It's just a possibility. If we are careful, we should be able to successfully suppress the dark cold poison without harming her dantian. Taking a deep breath, Zhuowen's eyes flashed. No matter what, even if Mu Qinxue became a cripple, he, Zhuowen, would stay by her side and protect her. Let's go. This is the wilderness and is not suitable for suppressing the dark cold poison for this girl. Let's return to the Drunken Spring Pavilion or the Imperial City first. Xiao He said indifferently. Nodding his head, Zhuowen turned his head and said to Qiu Yan behind him, this place is not suitable for suppressing the dark cold poison. We need a quiet environment. Let's return to the Drunken Spring Pavilion first. Upon hearing this, Qiu Yan nodded and said, then let's return to the Imperial City first. As he spoke, Qiu Yan waved his sleeve. Instantly, the vermilion bird that was still far away in the horizon let out a sharp cry and swooped down, arriving in front of the group in an instant. The vermilion bird is fast. Let's return on the vermilion bird. Qiu Yan was the first to climb onto the vermilion bird's back. He looked at Zhuowen and Lu Hantian and said indifferently. Zhuowen did not hesitate. He carried Mu Qinxue with both hands and jumped onto the vermilion bird. Lu Hantian hesitated for a moment before also climbing onto the vermilion bird's back. Whoosh! The vermilion bird let out a sharp cry once again. It spread its wings and raised countless gales. It turned into a stream of fire and swept towards the horizon. Its speed was as fast as lightning and it instantly disappeared into the horizon. Chapter 719. Successful suppression. When the vermilion bird landed on the intoxicated spring pavilion, it naturally attracted the attention of many people. Many people looked at the vermilion bird with a trace of reverence. Everyone knew that the person who possessed a terrifying mount like the vermilion bird was the mysterious holy maiden of the Burning Heaven sect. She was a noble existence that even the Azure Emperor had to treat with caution. Luo Xing, Qing Lian, Lve Tao, and the other geniuses of the Muqin County were all awakened by the vermilion bird's movement. They all came out and looked at the vermilion bird that had landed. What made them stunned was that Lu Hantian and Zhuowen were also on the vermilion bird. Furthermore, Zhuowen was carrying a devastatingly beautiful woman in his arms. This woman was like a fairy with an extraordinary temperament. When Lve Tao and the others saw Mu Qinxue, their eyes involuntarily revealed infatuation. Some of them were even stunned on the spot. Mu Qinxue was too beautiful. She was so beautiful that she didn't seem like a woman of the mortal world. She was like a fairy from the heavens. Furthermore, at this moment, Mu Qinxue was curled up in Zhuowen's arms. She was shivering like a frightened kitten. She looked even more delicate and pitiful, causing others to involuntarily feel pity for her. Looking at the beautiful Mu Qinxue, a trace of surprise appeared in the eyes of Qing Lian and Luo Xing. Especially when they saw that Zhuowen seemed to be extremely worried about Mu Qinxue, the two of them couldn't help but feel a little jealous. Jumping down from the vermilion bird, Zhuowen took a step and directly flew towards the side room of the Snow Moon region. With a few leaps, he disappeared from everyone's sight. Zhuowen didn't have much time to care about others. Right now, he only had Mu Qinxue in his heart. After Zhuowen left, Lu Hantian and Qiu Yan also walked down. Lve Tao, Luo Xing and the others immediately gathered around them. Standing in front of everyone, Lu Nantian looked at Qiu Yan, who was beside Lu Hantian, with a puzzled expression. If his guess wasn't wrong, Qiu Yan, who was beside Lu Hantian, should be from the Burning Heaven sect. Why was Lu Hantian walking with him? Big brother. What happened? Lu Nantian asked in astonishment. Sigh. It's a long story. Lu Hantian's brows furrowed brows, his face was filled with worry. Seeing Lu Hantian's expression, Lu Nantian became even more puzzled. This was the first time he had seen Lu Hantian reveal such an expression. Thinking about Zhuowen's strange behavior, Lu Nantian knew that this matter was definitely related to Zhuowen. If Zhuowen is unable to help Miss successfully suppress the dark cold poison, then that brat must be buried with Mississippi. Qiu Yan stood to the side with his arms crossed as he spoke in an unfriendly tone. Lu Hantian slightly furrowed his brows. For once, he didn't refute Qiu Yan's words. After all, Qiu Yan was a genuine Emperor realm expert. His strength was extremely terrifying. Lu Hantian was extremely afraid of him, so he didn't dare to refute. Lu Hantian's display of fear was naturally seen by Lu Nantian and the others. They weren't stupid. There was only one kind of person who could make Lu Hantian so afraid, and that was a terrifying Emperor realm expert. In other words, this bronze-masked Qiu Yan was very likely an Emperor realm expert like Emperor Qing. That woman just now was the Burning Heaven Sect's Holy Maiden. Suddenly, Luo Xing's beautiful eyes flickered. In the end, she still asked the question that she wanted to know the most. Yes. That is indeed the Burning Heaven Sect's Holy Maiden. Zhuowen seems to know her. Lu Hantian nodded. Hearing this, everyone's eyes were filled with disbelief. They didn't expect Zhuowen to know someone like the Burning Heaven Sect's Holy Maiden. Moreover, they seemed to be extremely close. How did Zhuowen do it? Just as everyone was wondering, Zhuowen had already carried Mu Qinxue into the room. It's so cold. Mu Qinxue shivered. Her eyes were tightly shut as she curled up in Zhuowen's arms. Her helpless expression made Zhuowen's heart ache. It'll be done soon. Gently stroking Mu Qinshue's beautiful hair, Zhuowen slowly placed Mu Qinxue on the bed. Soon after, he said to Xiao Hei, I'm counting on you. Yes. Summon the seven-colored phoenix first. A black light drilled out from between Zhuowen's eyebrows and turned into Xiao Hei's appearance. At this moment, Xiao Hei's expression was extremely grave. Nodding, Zhuowen didn't dare to delay. He quickly summoned 7 types of earth fire and used the fire fusion art to fuse them into a 7-colored phoenix. After a while, a palm-sized 7-colored phoenix appeared in Zhuowen's right palm. It flapped its wings and looked extremely lifelike. This Dragon Lord still needs the help of your mental energy. Release your mental energy and channel it into my body. Xiao Hei nodded and continued. Without hesitation, Zhuowen released his mental energy. Like rivers flowing into the sea, it flowed into Xiao Hei's body. In an instant, Xiao Hei's spiritual body looked much more solid. Xiao Hei waved its right paw. Immediately, the 7-colored phoenix that was quietly hovering in Zhuowen's palm let out a phoenix cry and circled around Xiao Hei's body. Kid! Before the suppression ends, you must continuously replenish my mental energy. If my mental energy is cut off, everything will be for naught. Xiao Hei said with a grave expression. Hearing this, Zhuowen's expression turned serious and he hurriedly nodded. It seemed that his mental energy played a significant role in this. Otherwise, Xiao Hei wouldn't have warned him in such a serious manner. Fortunately, Zhuowen had cultivated the great Yen scripture. His mental energy was much stronger than that of an ordinary grade 4 Arcana Master. It was already close to the level of a grade 5 Arcana Master. He was still quite confident. I'm going to start. During this process, don't disturb this Dragon Lord. As it spoke, Xiao Hei's expression became even more serious. Xiao Hei waved its paw. Immediately, the 7-colored phoenix circling around it followed its paw and slowly approached Mu Qinxue. As the dark cold poison was located near Mu Qinshue's dantian, Xiao Hei waved its paw when the 7-colored phoenix flew towards her abdomen. The clothes around her abdomen were instantly turned to dust, revealing a flawless white abdomen. At this moment, Xiao Hei's gaze was serious and focused. Its little paw pressed down gently. Under Xiao Hei's control, the seven-colored phoenix slowly descended. When it was about to reach Mu Qinshua's abdomen, Xiao Hei's movements were extremely slow. It was as slow as a tortoise. Buzz buzz buzz. In the end, the seven-colored phoenix still reached Mu Qinshua's abdomen. Immediately, waves of black cold qi poured out from Mu Qinshua's abdomen. It was actually trying to keep the seven-colored phoenix outside. You want to stop this, Dragon Lord? Xiao Hei snorted coldly. Its little paw pressed down. Instantly, the seven-colored phoenix's aura became even more powerful and terrifying. It actually directly suppressed the black cold qi that was pouring out. Meanwhile, the seven-colored phoenix also slowly burrowed into Mu Qinshua's abdomen. After an hour, the seven-colored phoenix finally completely entered Mu Qinshua's body. Meanwhile, the originally trembling and pale Mu Qinshua's delicate body trembled. She actually let out a pained moan. Kid! This is the most critical moment. You must not lose your mental energy. Xiao Hei turned around after the seven-colored phoenix entered Mu Qinshua's body. It was rather serious as it instructed. At this moment, fine beads of sweat appeared on Zhuowen's forehead. The amount of mental energy that Xiao Hei needed to control the seven-colored phoenix had greatly exceeded his expectations. Even though Zhuowen cultivated the Great Yen scripture and his mental energy was far superior to that of an ordinary arcana master, it was still somewhat lacking under Xiao Hei's extravagant use of mental energy. Don't worry. The mental energy will not be lost. Hurry up and suppress the cold poison in Mu Qinshua's body. Zhuowen gritted his teeth and said. Xiao Hei nodded. It once again extracted a large portion of the mental energy from Zhuowen's body. With a wave of its little paw, it did its best to control the seven-colored phoenix near Mu Qinshua's dantian. Right now, Xiao Hei was truly doing its best. It was afraid that the seven-colored phoenix would completely destroy Mu Qinshua's dantian if it was not careful. If it were not for the fact that it was worried about the dantian, the dark cold poison would have been suppressed by the seven-colored phoenix a long time ago. After all, this was merely a strand of cold qi within the dark cold poison. Its power was far from being a match for the seven-colored phoenix. Time slowly passed by. 6 hours had passed, and it was gradually getting late. All the lights in the capital had basically been extinguished. It was terrifyingly silent. Outside Zhuowen's room, Lu Hantian and Qiu Yan stood silently. They did not say a word, and their faces were filled with seriousness. Behind the two of them were the geniuses from Muqin County, led by Lu Hantian and Luo Xing. Earlier, Lu Hantian had already explained the entire situation. Everyone finally knew the relationship between Zhuowen and Mu Qinshuo. Senior sister. Qing Lian looked at Luo Xing as a bitter smile appeared on her lips. Luo Xing's bitter smile became even more pronounced. She finally knew why Zhuowen was so unromantic. His heart had already been filled by another woman. Moreover, the woman that Zhuowen liked was actually of such venerated status and exceptional talent. Even Luo Xing would feel a sense of inferiority when standing before Mu Qinshuo. Junior sister Qing Lian. We're still friends with Zhuowen, aren't we? Luo Xing suddenly smiled. Although her smile was a little forced, she had thought it through in her heart. Qing Lian could not help but be stunned when she heard this. Soon after, she also smiled. That's right, they were still friends with Zhuowen. It's already been 6 hours, and he still hasn't come out? Qiu Yan said with a frown. There are still 6 hours before the cold poison erupts. We'll only know the final result after daybreak, Lu Hantian said indifferently. I hope that kid can really succeed. Otherwise, don't blame me for being rude. Humph. Qiu Yan snorted coldly. Time passed slowly. Another 3 hours had passed. The dark night slowly faded away, revealing a trace of white. Dawn was about to arrive. In the room, Zhuowen's face was extremely pale. His lips were dry and cracked, and he was dizzy. For 12 hours, he had been continuously transferring mental energy to Xiaohei. Now, he had almost exhausted all the mental energy in his Naiwan palace. He had even overdrawn a lot of it. Just as Zhuowen was about to collapse, Xiaohei suddenly stopped absorbing mental energy. Xiaohei sighed softly and glanced at Zhuowen. "Kid. I've finally completely suppressed the dark cold poison. This time, I should be able to suppress this woman for about 3 years. If the heavenly fire doesn't get rid of it in 3 years, this woman will definitely die. I'll go back and rest first." Chapter 720. Rapid Improvement, 3 Years. Hearing Xiaohei's words, Zhuowen let out a sigh of relief. At least Mu Qinxue still had 3 years. Zhuowen was confident that he could find the last 2 earth fires within 3 years and merge them to form the heavenly fire. 3 years is enough. I will find the heavenly fire for you. Gently caressing Mu Qinxue's delicate face, Zhuowen's eyelids drooped slightly. A strong sense of exhaustion immediately surged into his heart. Just now, when he was assisting Xiaohei, his mental energy had almost been overdrawn. The only reason he could last until now was because of his willpower. Now that he knew that the dark cold poison in Mu Qinxue's body had been completely suppressed, Zhuowen naturally did not resist this tiredness. Tightly holding Mu Qinxue's jade-like hand, Zhuowen slowly closed his eyes and rested his head on the side of the bed. Not long after Zhuowen fell asleep, Mu Qinxue, who was lying on the bed, moved her eyelids slightly. She slowly opened her eyes. A trace of doubt appeared in her beautiful starry eyes. She remembered that in order to block Qiu Yan's attack last night, she was seriously injured. As a result, she was unable to suppress the dark cold poison in her body, causing it to erupt prematurely. She knew the power of the dark cold poison better than anyone. Once it erupted, what awaited her was death. There was no luck. But now, she looked perfectly fine. She was not dead. However, she realized that the dark cold poison that should have erupted near her dantian did not. Instead, it was curled up in a corner. Beside the dark frost poison, there was a lifelike 7-colored phoenix that constantly circled the dark frost poison. The terrifying temperature and the extremely low temperature of the dark frost poison cancelled each other out. Overall, the dark frost poison was completely suppressed by the 7-colored phoenix. Mu Qinxue knew that this 7-colored phoenix that suppressed the dark cold poison must have someone helping her suppress the dark cold poison in her body. Mu Qinxue wanted to get up, but she realized that her right hand was slightly heavy, as if it was pressing on something. She tilted her head slightly and immediately saw the sleeping Zhuowen. Zhuowen? Could it be that he helped me suppress the dark cold poison in my body? Mu Qinxue was exceptionally intelligent. She could see the exhaustion on Zhuowen's face. She then recalled that the 7-colored phoenix was definitely not Qiu Yan's doing. Therefore, the only person who could use the 7-colored phoenix to help her was the young man who was sleeping in front of her. Thinking of this, Mu Qinxue's cold and pretty face revealed a sweet smile. Her beautiful eyes were filled with endless gentleness. Zhuowen was the first man she liked. She could do a lot for Zhuowen, and she didn't even need anything in return. However, when she thought of the person she loved risking his life to save her, Mu Qinxue was truly happy. She was happy from the bottom of her heart. Zhuowen. Thank you. As her slender fingers gently brushed across Zhuowen's forehead, Mu Qinxue's face flushed red. Soon after, she bent down and her cherry-red lips slowly pressed against Zhuowen's forehead. Whoosh! A soft sound of breaking air came from outside the room. Silently, Qiu Yan's figure appeared in the room. Miss! Are you all right? Looking at the beautiful lady sitting on the bed in front of him, Qiu Yan's face revealed a joyful expression. Old Qiu! Don't act impulsively in the future. Mu Qinshua's beautiful eyes turned slightly and her gaze landed on Qiu Yan. Her expression was somewhat cold. When Qiu Yan heard this, his face was filled with shame. He softly said, "Miss. It's all my fault. I won't be impulsive in the future." This Zhuowen is indeed extraordinary. He was actually able to help you suppress the dark cold poison. I wonder how long he can suppress it. When she saw Qiu Yan's sincerity, the anger on Mu Qinshua's face slowly receded. She indifferently said, "It should be able to suppress it for 3 years." 3 years? When he heard this, Qiu Yan's face was somewhat disappointed. 3 years was too short. However, he also knew that being able to suppress the dark cold poison for 3 years was indeed commendable. "Miss, shouldn't we be leaving now?" Looking at Zhuowen, who was already sound asleep, Qiu Yan somewhat hesitantly said. "That's right. It's time to leave." Deeply staring at Zhuowen, who was still sound asleep, Mu Qinshuo softly sighed. She gently withdrew her right hand and walked off the bed. Zhuowen had a very long dream. It was a very realistic dream. In the dream, he walked aimlessly and his surroundings were completely dark. The only source of light was the beautiful figure in front of him. Zhuowen clearly knew that the beautiful figure was Mu Qinshuo. However, Mu Qinshuo kept getting further and further away from him. Even though Zhuowen chased after her with all his might, the distance between the two of them did not close. Instead, it grew further and further away until the surrounding space once again turned into darkness. Slowly opening his eyes, Zhuowen discovered that he was already lying on the bed. He clearly remembered that before he fell asleep, he should have been beside Mu Qinshuo's bed. Why was he lying on the bed now? Abruptly getting up, Zhuowen discovered that in the room, Lu Hantian was sitting at the table, pouring wine for himself. Seeing that Zhuowen had woken up, Lu Hantian waved his right hand and a cup of wine instantly appeared in Zhuowen's hand. "Drink a cup first," Lu Hantian said softly. Nodding his head, Zhuowen raised his head and drank the cup of wine. Instantly, a spicy taste filled his throat, causing Zhuowen to involuntarily cough. This wine was so spicy and bitter. After drinking the wine, Zhuowen asked in a deep voice, "How many days have I been asleep?" "1 day and 1 night. Also, Mu Qinshuo has left." Lu Hantian was silent for a moment before he suddenly spoke. Shaking his right hand, Zhuowen's pupils shrank. Although he had some guesses, Zhuowen still felt a little melancholy when he heard the news. "This is the envelope Mu Qinshuo left behind before she left. She asked me to pass it to you." Lu Hantian spoke again. With a flick of his finger, a ray of light flashed past and an envelope landed in front of Zhuowen. He gently opened the envelope. There wasn't much handwriting inside, only a few sentences. "I hate you for not being like Jiang Luiyue. North and south, east and west, north and south, east and west, we can only accompany each other without parting. Zhuowen, thank you. I knew that you would definitely be able to enter the Divine Academy. I hate you for not being like Jiang Luiyue. North and south, east and west, north and south, we can only accompany each other without parting." Softly reciting this poem, Zhuowen's lips curled up. He, Zhuowen, would definitely enter the Divine Academy. He, Zhuowen, would definitely meet Mu Qinshuo again. "Kid. I've already delivered the letter. I'll take my leave first." Seeing that Zhuowen's mood wasn't as low as he had imagined, Lu Hantian let out a sigh of relief. He was afraid that Mu Qinshuo's departure would cause some trouble for Zhuowen. Now it seemed that he had worried too much. "Big brother Hantian. Many thanks to you this time," Zhuowen respectfully said to Lu Hantian. Zhuowen could see that Lu Hantian had a trace of fatigue between his brows. It was clear that while he was asleep, Lu Hantian had been guarding the room the entire time. "Ha! What are you thanking me for? I'm your big brother. You don't have to treat me like an outsider." Since you're fine now, I'll take my leave first. Also, don't slack off. 3 months later, the Azure Emperor ranking tournament will begin. You better prepare yourself. It's best if you can make a breakthrough during this period of time. When the time comes, prepare yourself for the tournament. After saying that, Lu Hantian stepped out of the room and left. Ranking tournament? This time, I must do my best to get into the top 5 of the Azure Emperor ranking. Squinting his eyes, Zhuowen was determined to get into the top 5 of the Azure Emperor ranking. However, he also knew that there were many geniuses who were stronger than him. Therefore, if he wanted to enter the top 5, he had to become stronger. Thinking of this, Zhuowen flicked his finger and took out a ball of light from his spiritual ring. This ball of light had a human-shaped infant curled up in it. It was the nascent soul that Zhuowen had obtained from the underground river. There was still half of the nascent soul's energy left. If Zhuowen absorbed all of the remaining energy, his cultivation would definitely improve. Moreover, Zhuowen had a treasure like the 7-colored soul essence stone. It was enough to raise his mental strength by a whole realm. At that time, he would be a complete grade 5 Arcana master. At that time, Zhuowen would be able to display the true power of the greater infinite sword formation. Let's absorb the nascent soul's energy first. Thinking of this, Zhuowen sat cross-legged on the futon. Holding the sparkling nascent soul in his right hand, he circulated the yuan force in his body. The vast energy in the nascent soul flowed into Zhuowen's body like rivers flowing into the sea. Zhuowen could not help but feel extremely comfortable. A month passed in the blink of an eye. During this month, Zhuowen had basically been in seclusion in his room, absorbing the nascent soul in his hand. Finally, after a month, he had completely absorbed the nascent soul's energy. The nascent soul's energy was extremely vast. It was also very suitable for warriors to absorb and transform into yuan force. Therefore, Zhuowen's cultivation soared from the initial stage of the ultimate 7-will Emperor realm to the peak of the ultimate 7-will Emperor realm. In terms of cultivation, he was about the same as Feng Yong from the Feng family. However, Zhuowen could control the existence of spear intent. He would not be afraid even if he faced Guosheng. Feng Yong was no longer a threat to Zhuowen. After using the nascent soul to break through to the peak of the ultimate 7-will Emperor realm, Zhuowen began to take out the 7-colored soul essence stone. He began to absorb the essence of the 7-colored soul essence stone and transform it into his mental strength. The 7-colored soul essence stone was indeed very powerful. In the second month, Zhuowen's mental strength shot up like a rocket and directly broke through to grade 5. After breaking through to grade 5, his cultivation continued to rise. It finally stopped when he reached the great circle of grade 5. In 2 months, Zhuowen's martial cultivation had risen from the initial stage of the ultimate 7-will Emperor realm to the peak of the ultimate 7-will Emperor realm. His mental strength had also shot up from grade 4 to grade 5. If anyone were to see this kind of speed, they would definitely be stupefied. The breakthrough in martial cultivation and mental strength had caused Zhuowen's strength to undergo an earth-shattering change. Just by relying on his martial cultivation and the terrifying power of spear intent, Zhuowen could crush a peak of the ultimate 7-will Emperor realm. He could even fight against an initial stage of the ultimate 8-will Emperor realm warrior. However, if Zhuowen's mental strength was included, then Zhuowen was truly terrifying. An ordinary ultimate 8-will Emperor realm warrior might not be a match for Zhuowen. Dong! 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 Suddenly, there was a crisp knock on the door. Zhuowen slowly opened his eyes. Come in. After saying that, a beautiful figure slowly walked into the room. It was Lu, the servant who specially served Zhuowen. You're tuning in to the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.